I'm Allison Michelle.
Stella Moore.
And we're
Southern Sisters Sanctuary.
That was a bit, but we're also feeling off
like
our
it's
game today.
A comfort food day, possibly. And we marked out anything else we were thinking about.
This is our show today. If you can read that,
Yeah.
It's about me and this other me.
Yeah.
It's just about us.
And and as you say, the whole mess principle. I kind of like that.
Oh yeah. I want to do more with that, but right now it's on hiatus.
No, I think it fits today.
Well, today's also pretty much my birthday. It's my solar and lunar birthday.
I was going to say, it's tomorrow.
I know, but I'm counting it starting now because at 11/11, the moon moved into Cancer, which is my birth lunar sign. So I have my,
Happy birthday to you.
have a vain moment because I've never cared about my birthday, like ever, because I'm not a very social creature typically. So I feel like the topic of selfishness, and I said, like, for Aries even the other day, I called it the sign of selfishness, which I think a lot of people would have a problem with.
Like all the Aries.
But I've really come to own it as an Aries rising. And I've realized that selfishness is a quality that I want in more people. I'm so sick of phony virtue, which we've come to call virtue signaling, and there's just so much of it. And when you get involved in personal relationships and there's no healthy selfishness there, then you end up with a lot of shadow. There's just so much. It's a breeding ground for shadow when you can't recognize that you need certain things from another person or from a relationship, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's where I'm starting off. What about you, Stella?
I'm starting by listening.
Oh my gosh. I was trying to listen to Carl Jung on the way over here, and I was just like, oh, I'm so tired of listening to everything about this man. I feel like
that's pretty funny. Yeah.
Men have brought things to academia that women really specialize in. The archetypes and all of this thinking. It is the woo-woo. It is the new age stuff just brought into a different environment. Men get famous and celebrated for it, while women are cast to the side. I'm so fucking sick of that. All I could feel driving over
righteous
here.
indignation today, are we?
Yes.
That's usually my position.
This is my birthday blast.
Yeah.
Pardon this outburst. And I feel like I should just let that out, because normally I tame it because I really do appreciate the academic environment and the structured thought.
Yeah.
But and this, I get stuck on one instance when I was in the middle of that spiritual emergency and I was just having all this stuff come through. I was posting on Facebook a lot, and I posted this one thought. A guy, he was a neighbor of mine. I didn't know him super well. He took my words, changed up a few of them, and posted the same thing and got a bunch of reactions. I don't get any reactions most of the time, especially when it's a deeper thought. That was just a signpost moment of like, here's what you're angry about specifically.
Yeah.
It's how women are stolen from and given no credit. And you know, our whole thing is credit shouldn't matter. Like, it's that it was made to matter so much. And
well, I listened to Bjork's second podcast this morning, I guess, and she addresses that back in the 80s, and I'm very aware of this. I didn't make it, but I was in the music industry, and I know how women were and are treated. If we'll just leave it at that. Anyway, she said that, you know, she was producing her own music basically, like in the 90s. But if a man came in there and helped her for 15 minutes, he got listed as the producer on the album.
Yep.
You know, which is so true. I so know that.
Yeah. There's also kind of an animalistic thing here. I think people, like dogs, respond to the authority of the male.
The big dog
figure.
of the dog dish is what I used to call it. I had two sons. I still have two sons. I had boys instead of girls when I became a parent. And I used to say that there was nothing like the big dog at the dog dish if things got out of control. And I got that from a guy that I dated, actually. He had two, at that time, teenage sons. And he had found out they were giving their mom a hard time. And so he waited until he was driving them back to their mother's house. And when we were sitting in front of her house, he drops his voice, and he had a deep baritone voice. And he goes, "By the way," he goes, "I hear your mother has been getting grief from you boys at the house." He goes, "I hope I don't have to mention this again."
That's all he had
to say. I laughed all the way home. It was hilarious. You could feel it. And that's all he had to say. And so I've always called it the big dog at the dog dish forever after.
I love that.
Just drop your voice and say something really simple. I did it with my boys.
But as
a woman.
It's more powerful if the masculine is allied with the feminine instead of competing with it.
Yeah.
And I think our history is of competition. And I've been mentioning this a ton in personal conversations and when I was doing videos on the whole mess principle. Like, biblically, the enmity that is sown between us, like, I see that playing out in all of history. Like, just a man and woman in the garden seeing everything they don't like in each other before we can come to what we do like and how we work together and how we're complementary forces and not competitive forces. But anyway, that's great that she had him on her side in that instance.
Yeah. I've read studies that have suggested that possibly the whole female male balance thing that you and I are not that fond of started when humans started farming. Because then it became it became about strength instead of wiliness, basically. Anybody can kill another animal who's sneaky and has a tool. Anybody. It's not dependent on strength. Because most of them are bigger than we are anyway. A man can't take one down alone either. But for farming, tilling soil, moving things, lifting and all that stuff, then physical strength becomes a little more of an issue, but also, well, maybe not even have been that in the beginning. It may have just been that women had the milk and it was that simple.
Yeah.
I mean, really.
We both have a very naturalistic lens, I think, or evolutionary, or...
I don't know. Well, I call it my forest philosophy.
Yeah, I
just
love
think
that
of everything
so
in terms of, if you're in the forest, who's going to be alive? And then that's how our brains work. That's how our brains work.
Well, or I would have just been...
It's there this is all there to keep you alive, And there was no need for a Buddha until we became farmers and started staying in one place. And our brains had to change. Now this is just all my forest philosophy stuff.
I probably believe it. I was like, you know what? I say that, but probably only because I'm a modern human. If I were actually born in hard circumstances, I probably would have found my zen doing physical labor and survivalist
yes,
stuff.
you would. And you would have been hyper-vigilant. People like us are hyper-vigilant. And, I mean, that's one word for it. I look at it, as you know, in many different ways. But if you're... I really don't like the bipolar thing, but we're going to keep using it for a while. If you're bipolar, you're a lateral thinker. You see out this way. Okay? It's the opposite of ADHD, which is they don't want to see all that stuff, and so they're hyper-vigilant. They can be hyper-focused, not hyper-vigilant. Hyper-vigilant's what I am, hyper-focused. Okay? So they lock in, and they won't see all the stuff that you and I see when we walk into a room. I know this because in my house, our house was evenly split. There were two people who were classic ADHD, and two of us, excuse me for saying this to the other son, really more of a classic bipolar mind. Or we can say more logic-oriented, more globally oriented, however you want to put it. But we all have pretty much a split brain. My whole family, we all just mixed in together. But that thing, it's hard to communicate. If you're a global thinker and you've got a logic kid, they are gonna mess you up. You know, my older son. You don't think like they do. So when they come up with their natural defenses when they're little, you know, because they're little animals, and so they're starting to come up to you, stick their chin in the air, and say na, you know, whatever, you know. And if they're logic oriented and you're a global person, the stuff they say to you it just blows you sideways, you know. And the reason I know this is because it happened to me, and it's happening to one of my daughter-in-laws right now. Her daughter is just like my son, my older son. And what he did is he did things like he would refuse to learn to write cursive when he was little. This is back when they were still teaching cursive. And the reason he gave, I said, honey, if you wanted to do this, you can write checks. And he goes, I don't have a bank account, so it doesn't matter. Mother of God, I could just, you know, this kid wasn't susceptible to the easy fixes with most children.
Right.
So I took him to the bank and we opened a bank account. You know? Okay, so this is the way he thought, right? Okay, my daughter-in-law was telling my granddaughter that she was going to have to give up her room because it's the guest room, and my daughter-in-law's best friend is coming to visit, right? And the granddaughter says, she goes, excuse me, she goes, she could stay in your room. And my daughter-in-law goes, well, no, you know, I don't have room in my room. And she goes, you have 2 pillows on your bed. Now, how do you fight that logic? You know, I'm a global thinker, so I don't even think that way to start with, you know. So like when a kid says something like that to me, I'm like, crap. You know, I got to think about it, you know, and that's their defense system.
I guess that's when a parent usually goes, because I
said so, but I didn't do that ever. There had to be a real reason. Because I was preparing these people for the future. It wasn't ever about, that's what Dan said he admired about my parenting, is that it was never about the moment. It was always about the long game. And the long game is going out in the world and being able to function with other humans.
That's why I'm saying, even when I have no negative feelings about bipolar 1 as far as what the brain is trying to do to help us.
Right.
I admire everything about how Stella has approached life, and for her to be the sufferer and the rest of society to be the victor. That's injustice. Like, I can't stand it. It's Libra season. I need some justice.
We need the justice card today.
I've been seeing it forever. And you mentioned even the right brain, left brain. We weren't sure we were going to stick to this topic, which originally we were titling it Vanity versus Individuation. Individuation is what Stella and I have both been working on our entire lives, to the great gaslighting of ourselves. And yeah, we're just kind of sick of it. But anyway,
we're sick of it today. We'll say that. We're sick of it today.
I just don't have energy for, also when I get in front of a camera, I get really stiff. So I'm just like, I'm going to go with the angry energy just to see how lively I can get in front of the camera, because I feel very compressed and small the moment a camera is on. I don't know.
You don't appear that way to me at all.
Okay, good. Because I just feel like suddenly something changes. Like I can feel it in the air, you know?
Well, what you may be feeling is the natural adrenaline rush that comes with being in front of something.
Self-consciousness? But I don't feel the self-consciousness anymore. Like I feel...
But there's an adrenaline. Just give me a second here.
Anyway.
The physicality of it is there's adrenaline flowing. That's what I'm trying to get through here. That's the physicality fact. Okay. You've got adrenaline flowing, and that's the change you're feeling. And so what you do is you shut down to protect. Say, so you feel like you're getting smaller, because if you were in the woods, you'd be trying to shrink so the bear wouldn't find you. Okay, that's
Okay.
what adrenaline is doing for you in this situation because you can't run
all bears
because we're
out
sitting
there.
still, aren't we? Now, and all you bears are out there growling
Leave me
quietly.
alone.
Yeah.
Shut off your mind. Stop
Yeah.
criticizing me.
But you know what I'm saying? So what you're feeling is what everybody feels when they first get on a stage or in front of a camera
Okay.
because it's life-threatening.
I'm discovering
Basically.
there's so much more going on with the subconscious, and she's pointing it out to me. I legitimately do not feel fear in front of the camera anymore.
Yeah.
I feel the numb, and that itself is
The
probably
numb
what
is
you're
fear.
talking about.
That's right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I just don't register it emotionally at all, so it doesn't seem like that's what it is.
Because if you
but-
did, you wouldn't be able to function.
Yeah.
Your body, your brain has to find a way to get your body to be able to function in terror.
Yeah.
And so sometimes it's shutting it all down.
Yep.
So you're not aware of it.
And I think that's what like everybody in this culture is going through when
yeah, I wouldn't
they're
get
like,
that.
nothing's wrong, everything's good,
Yeah, everything's fine.
all good.
Yeah.
Which, like, that's fine if that's really how it is, but I don't know that everything's all good for anybody.
No, that isn't life. Life is brutal.
Yeah.
I mean, look out your window if you live near any nature at all. I mean, in broad daylight,
Life
an owl can
is-
drop down, take a squirrel, it's gone.
just bad shit's gonna happen.
And that's like, we're not any different than the squirrel.
Yeah.
We have things that, little tiny things that take us down, that we
Yeah.
give funny names to. Those are the predators that take us out. Easily.
And
Yes.
realistically, there's no escape from the vicissitudes of life.
No.
So you can reach an equilibrium with it. I
Yeah.
always think of the Two of Pentacles.
Mm-hmm.
It's a man juggling an infinity.
The
Looks like a big
infinity's
old
fine.
rubber band,
Yeah.
and everything in the
And
picture is
and an
all
eight
wobbly,
figure.
and
Yeah.
you can find a stillness within the vicissitudes.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no such thing as everything's happy, everything's good, nothing's going wrong. And if you are deluded into thinking that that's the case for you, it's like you're going up to the roller coaster, just to the
I
crest.
was going to say, you're going to
in
have a
order to
tower
go
moment.
plummet.
There's the tower card. That's
Yeah.
the card in tarot where everybody's falling out of a building that's falling over.
Yeah, we talk about the tower card a lot, and I probably should have showed it by now. Yeah.
Do you know where it is? Have you got access
I don't
to
have
it?
a traditional
Oh,
tarot. It's not.
It's
It's
not?
a tower like
Oh,
sinking
shoot.
in a cup.
I've got a
Basically
couple
lightning
upstairs.
is striking a tower, and
Yeah.
there's two people falling. It looks like a disaster
Yeah.
card. Anyway,
If we take a little break, I can go upstairs because I've got my Halloween decks that I'm sure
Well, you
have
go get
traditional tarot towers.
and I'll explain
I'll go do
this
that.
card while you're
Yeah,
gone.
great.
So, this card from the Dreams of Gaia Tarot. I was flipping through this deck the other night thinking about just me. I wasn't thinking about the show at all. But we do or Stella and I were thinking we maybe didn't want to do this topic so much, the individuation versus vanity. And this card comes out. It's the 8 of Air. And it's this man. Stella mentioned the hemispheres of the brain. He's got a spike going through his left hand, which is coordinated with the right brain because it's opposites. And this is the card of ego. At the same time as I drew it, I got these two cards, which when I first got acquainted with this deck, I called this card like me and Stella, and then the self as well. So all self-centered cards there, and I couldn't figure out why. And then I realized, oh, it's because we do need to stick to this topic. We need to talk about ourselves. We need to talk about the ego, and what is good about the ego, what it's trying to do, what is its function. In a naturalistic mindset, there has to be a reason for the ego or it wouldn't exist. And then, so I was still confused and I flipped through the deck one more time and this guy fell out one more time. I'm gonna read his little chapter in the book. He stands for the ego, truth, power, responsibility, consequences, cause and effect, lessons learned, and memory. We are creatures driven by our egos. Our ego is in part our identity, the center of our consciousness. It's driven by our instincts and base desires and constrained by culture and society. It can have us feeling confident and certain, or it can have us feeling uncertain and afraid. It can also employ one of several defense mechanisms to shield us from uncomfortable truths or a reality that we are not willing or ready to accept. So many of us are afraid of the truth. We can be so afraid of the truth that our ego will work hand in hand with our primal instincts and do what it can to protect us. If our ego is wounded or we've been taught to fear, the defense mechanisms employed may also be detrimental to good health, well-being, and our relationships with others. Our need to feel safe, to feel good, to be right, to be better, to be needed, and to be loved can result in the evidence at hand.
Me. I want to be all those things.
Yes, we all want all of those things.
Yeah.
And the ego, even trying to protect us, tries to say, no, I don't need any of those things.
Yeah, because I could get hurt trying to get those things.
Exactly. Where was I? I was in the middle of something.
Oh, sorry.
No, it was a good segue. I think that's enough. Anyway, so the ego is important, the self is important, and it makes life more interesting. This has been my little bender in my mind lately is I'm just so tired of people that pretend to have no interest in the self. When even in all of our society, our merchant society, everybody's telling everybody, appeal to the self. Tell if you have a product or service, what does it do for the person? We're all trying to teach, appeal to self-interest while simultaneously pretending that we don't have any self-interest. And these contradictions, these blatant contradictions, really make me crazy. That's when it's like I go into bipolar mania and I just do my own little reality where the opposites can coexist in a non-cognitively dissonant way. Stella's looking for the Tower card to show you.
Yeah, I am. This deck is a whose deck? I don't remember whose deck this is. I love this deck. It's kind of a dark deck, but it has some humor to it. It looks so cartoonish that it doesn't freak me out at all with the sense of darkness. It's kind of a fun sense of darkness.
Yeah, it is cartoony.
Yeah, it is. Next week, maybe I should, show the name of this deck. I guess it's gonna be. Geez, holy cow! Actually, this is actually. I fall in love. I kind of re-fall in love with decks once in a while. Mm-hmm. I won't use a deck for a long time, and then I'll look at it and go, "Oh wow, this is really cool." And that's the way I'm feeling about this deck right now.
And it's Halloween. It's a very good Halloween.
It's a good Halloween deck, and that's what I meant to do. I gotta go upstairs and look. That's what I was saying. I don't even know the name of this deck. Thanks for bringing that up again.
Well, that's something I can put in the description.
Yeah.
And I have been doing that. If you ever want to know what tarot cards we're using, they're in the description.
Yeah, if we don't know during the show, we'll
it's going to be
here it is. Geez, that took long enough. It was the very last card. Smarty pants here.
Okay, well it's still not the traditional
It's
image.
Not quite the totally traditional one, yeah.
The tower, but whatever. You can look it up if you're curious.
But it's always a tower. This picked up on that, and that it's wobbly looking. But usually the tower is crumbling. Mm-hmm. That's
basically what it means is that you won't make a change yourself. So outside forces are coming in to take away something that's making you feel a false sense of security and preventing your growth.
Yeah. So if you're a tarot reader and you keep pulling the same card over and over, and you think of it as a negative card. We just had a discussion about a card yesterday.
5 of Cups for me.
You want to figure out what that card's about because you're trying to tell yourself something, and if you don't pick up on it, eventually something big will happen in your life because your brain's trying to make you aware of something important to your well-being.
Yeah, I've realized, so I've been pulling the 5 of Cups a lot, and I thought it was more collective because I have been trying to tune into the energies of others and collective energies because it's like my personal life is it's just paused, aside from this. But I've realized it keeps appearing just for me too. So, like, what does this mean? And it took Stella explaining to me yesterday, like, you actually have a lot going on, and it's not good. Like, not good things are happening.
Just some scary stuff,
And it's like, I know that. I just, when there's nothing to be done, I don't dwell on things, and focusing on the positive.
Well, consciously you don't.
Yeah.
But the brain that's trying to keep you alive in the forest is always working on it.
It's just, I don't know. I feel like I'm getting to the point where I'm like, I don't know if I want to read tarot.
Now here's
people.
more of a classic tarot tower.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's what we were looking for.
Is that a different deck?
This is a different deck. This is another Halloween deck that I have.
Like,
yeah, these are the decks.
It looks very similar.
I only get these out in October.
Okay, here's
because I just think they're fun.
a more accurate tower.
Yeah, that's a traditional
hopefully
tarot tower. Yeah.
I guess I'll learn how to present with this camera in the future. Hopefully
well, or we'll work out the other stuff there.
So
maybe I'll just
anyway. Tarot is a very powerful tool. I feel like there's only been one instance where I've really been able to tune into others and read tarot for them, and that's in person. I've been playing with doing them online for people, and I just feel so disconnected. And like every reading's for me. Like, I guess that's still not gone because clearly that Five of Cups was still for me. And that card is called the Lord of Loss in Pleasure. It's actually kind of the card of feeling like you have it all.
In the Hindus,
Really?
He's the god of destruction and creativity. So it's that similar idea.
Yeah.
That they go hand in hand.
Yep.
Yin yang in Chinese.
The Four of Cups and the Five of Cups are very similar. It's like you have it all right in front of you, but you can't feel it. Just the Five of Cups is like a deeper progression.
Yeah.
Past boredom into like sorrow.
Yeah.
And that's totally where I'm at. And I can't believe I didn't see that. Like, deeply, I feel like my life is not what I want it to be. And yet I love who I am. Like, in the process of individuation, I'm thriving. I'm loving that journey. But as far as the 3D life that I'm living, I don't see that character that I'm creating in it. Like, I'm totally lost in that regard.
Yeah.
So even my whole presentation in the 3D world as an avatar of my soul is a grand experiment at this point. Like, I just don't even know how to appear here in the world. And I think it's because I am integrating my animus. Like, my whole life I've been living a very feminine hero's journey, which has been so amazing. And now I have to really work on those masculine things that I've been trying to pawn off on a significant other.
I love the way you put that.
Well, that's what we do. That's what projection is.
Yeah.
When you have qualities that you want to develop, and instead of developing them yourself, you have figures in your life that become very important. And it's very loving. It doesn't have to be a negative thing.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be harsh.
It's beautiful relationship. But when you fail to... it's opposite of what we think, because in an individualist society versus one that is oriented towards individuation, you think you're stealing things from other people. Like, when you allow yourself to rub off on other people and vice versa.
If you receive it all, somebody else has to lose.
Exactly, the zero-sum game.
It's really detrimental.
But very naturally, what I do when I meet people that I love or have any kind of kinship with, even if it's a celebrity or something, I just take the characteristics that I like. I am an amalgamation of other people. Like, I don't even know who Allie or Allison Michelle really is. I feel very much like the nothingness at the center of the universe that has taken patches from everybody else I've ever met or seen or loved.
Yeah.
And I think that's how it's supposed to be.
Yeah, you're just aware of it. That's what people meditate for years to get to the point to where they realize that. And that's what happened to me automatically when I was a child. Just one day I was there.
Yeah.
And I knew even as a child, I knew that not everybody experienced that, which is really weird to me that a little kid could know that. A little kid could know that.
Because that's been a struggle for me to accept.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why isn't everybody at this point with me?
Yeah.
I've never had the like experience with mature individuals to realize like, oh, not everybody just feels this way. Because I've always been quiet, and it's because of my assumption that more people are like me than I imagine, you know, or than I think. And I've actually found in practice that it's the opposite. Like, very few people are like me.
Well, I think everybody assumes everybody's like them.
Yeah.
And we all assume everybody was raised like we were or are being raised. You know, we come in a very specific vessel. You know, and that's by necessity how you experience everything is through this vessel that you came in on. You know, and to me, that's what all of this in more nature-oriented societies, that's what the shamans serve to do, is to help people stay in that state. Mm-hmm. You know,
that's what we're missing.
and that's what we're missing in emergent society.
Anytime a human being is freaking out, like I'm freaking out a little bit today.
Yeah, they need to see somebody.
I'm like, this is what we need shamans for.
That's right. You need somebody that's got your values. You know, so if you're a Christian, it's not so much like this anymore, I don't think, unfortunately, because Christianity's gotten some harsh stuff in this country. Now, I can't speak about other countries, but in this country, Jesus' admonition to love your neighbor as yourself. Actually, I did think about that all week because I thought about the narcissism thing. Jesus' major statement was love your neighbor as yourself. And what I thought this week is the unfortunate part is that many people do love their neighbors as themselves because they hate themselves.
Yeah.
I meet them all the time.
I was like, that's actually a much deeper reality than, and we see those signs all around here. I don't know what church it is, like in Bartlesville, like love your neighbor as yourself. It's like on this black board everywhere. And it's not even ironic. So then when people treat other people poorly, it's a reflection
That's what
of
came
the
to me
truth.
this week.
Yeah.
Actually, they are loving their neighbor. Because I was thinking about what I'll call it a style of Christianity that's become predominant in the United States that I personally feel is very destructive because I feel like it's so hate-filled. You know, they just consistently, I say this as someone who came from a different Christian background, lift their noses in the air and say, well, you know, if you're not like me, you're going to hell. And they say it outright like that. They don't even dress it up.
Yeah.
You know? And so what I was thinking about those folks that I meet pretty much daily where we live, you know? And that's when I thought, well, the problem is that they are loving their neighbors as they love themselves because I almost always, I can tell that they've had some kind of something that they're struggling with. We all do. This is a harsh plane to live on. Beautiful
and harsh because
but harsh.
Beauty comes from contrast.
Yeah.
And also,
and it's life and death. Let's get real.
When you're reading anything, the Bible included, you get from it whatever level of consciousness you're at.
Yep.
I was actually, one of the videos on Individuation that I was watching was talking about the Bible as coded rules for individuation.
Yeah,
So
that's what I was taught.
It is teaching you how to be like Christ, not to follow Christ. And everyone has their own path. Like yours, you're not going to have, nobody else is going to have to do a literal cross. That was his path. Even a figurative cross to bear. Like it could be something as simple as this. Like I feel like ever since I've tried to work in front of a camera, every moment I turn it on, it's crucifixion. And it's like, and that's a dramatic, but that's the modern life. Like we're not going to have the same dramatic.
Well, it's not tigers
unless
for
we
most of
create
us
it.
anymore.
Unless we accept like the war narrative where we have to go out and.
That's what I was about to say. Except for now, we've got Putin. He's our tiger. If you're someone who's not if your country isn't aligned with Russia, you know, and I think most of the people in the world don't care about countries. Frankly,
yeah,
you know, we really don't. Most of us don't.
about-
There are people who are natural naturally would be politicians or soldiers or whatever, and that's their life, you know. But most of us, deep down, really don't care a whole lot about countries. All we care about is our daily fortune. Are we alive? Are our children alive? That is how it is in the wild.
Like,
you're taking care of your babies.
Yeah,
it's just like the possum in my yard, you know. She's taking care of her babies. That's all she cares about. She didn't give a shit about Putin and whoever else.
Yeah.
You know.
I think politics is a very small game for very few people, and they've managed to make it entertaining enough for the average person that the average person can sit and watch it and have their little opinion and feel self-righteous and feel like they're given an identity.
Yeah.
I've really come to view anybody that's too into politics as like, okay, you're selling your identity off to these oligarchs that are trying to run the whole world.
I just heard I was listening to Joseph Campbell and Bill Moyers the other day, and he Joseph Campbell brought that up, you know, buying someone else's reality.
Yeah.
You know.
And
I think if you're crazy, you're more likely to have seen that about society, because your reality is not matching up with the agreed to reality of whoever you're around. I'm just about to set my hand on fire there. I put my hand up there. I felt the fire. But that's, you know, anytime you turn on any show. I thought about that when I turned on the TV last night.
Yeah.
You know, I actually chose to watch a movie that I know very well instead of shows, because I wanted something where I already knew what the message was and I knew where the pitfalls were for my way of thinking, so I wouldn't be going there.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't want to do any slippery slopes last night, because I can feel it, and my husband knows it, because he talks to me a different way when he sees I'm out on the, I call it the next room, when I'm in the next room. Okay, and I guess we're both in the next room this week. He'll just start talking to me about different things, about how much he likes my mind, and and stuff like that. It's so cute,
That is.
And I can tell that's how he's expressing his concern. That things aren't feeling quite right. It's nothing anybody can see in this house at this stage. At this stage, you can't see it. You just feel it. There's something different, And I have to admit, I'm big into science and all that, but this morning I did think, it does make you wonder about the math and science of astrology, the way it was practiced many thousands of years ago, and the way people are maybe starting to do it more like that again now. At least that's what I've read from. I have Hindu. Ayurvedic astrologers that I like, that I follow.
Me too. Oh, I had something I wanted to say about that. If we can remember, keep going.
Go ahead.
No, we're going to get off track.
No,
we're in the middle
go ahead. I'm done. That's good enough.
No, I need to know.
Okay, all I wondered is I know there's stuff going on right now. If you look at it astrologically with that math and that science, that there's a big shift going on. And when I turn on the tarot readers that I enjoy, everybody's feeling antsy and willied up right now. And so I was like, I'm not watching any news. I'm not it may be the solar eclipse is coming up the 25th, but I just think that's fascinating. That even the people I know who are not particularly woo-woo, they feel antsy, they feel weird. Everybody feels a little off right now.
Oh my gosh, I felt like a blockhead for weeks.
You know how I've been, because she's been helping me with a pickle I have at my house.
Spacier than space.
And I've been that way every day. It's been like climbing Mount Everest every day.
That's
just
why
to
I just
figure
was like,
out what to do.
You know what? We're just going to be angry or whatever we want to be today.
Well, and my prayer every morning ends up being, just show me what to do and I'll do it. It's a pretty basic prayer these days, and that's when I get down to the get down. That really is what it'll come down to. I'll just go, please, just give me the eyes to hear.
Yeah, just get me out of bed.
The ears to hear, the eyes to see, and the wisdom to understand what the hell you're trying to tell me.
Yeah.
So I see we're both feeling the thing here. Let's.
Yeah. Oh well.
I'm going to try a Halloween get pulled.
The Vedic astrologers first.
Okay. All right. Go.
So this is a Sagittarius card. Just by the way. I listened to a guy talking about
Concept.
something called the 8th from Venus. And it's relevant to us and what we're doing in Vanity because I've always had a contentious relationship with our entertainment culture. And but I've noticed also that while I want to like just shove it all away and be like, it's so vain, I just hate it, I also get a lot of life from it. And I want to see people, my thing is I want to see people in real life taking themselves as seriously as movie characters, or, I just want it to be translated to real life instead of limited to the screen. And then I'm so sick of hearing people in real life condemning people viewing their lives as a movie as a bad thing or grandiose, or like, this is what I've gotten mostly from my love relationships, is I feel judged for wanting my life to be beautiful.
Oh yeah,
And
I'm a beauty person too,
expecting-
and people will treat you like you're frivolous
or
because
vain.
you love beauty or vain, and it doesn't even have anything to do with you. It's beauty.
It's much.
It's
beauty
it's the
goes
big
deep.
beauty, the deep beauty, the God beauty. I so get that, and I realized that my grandparents passed that down. My grandfather. This is really more because of my grandfather. What I'm doing over the table here and over my mantle. My grandfather was the one who always decorated the mantle at their house. Yeah,
Wow.
it had to be beautiful.
My grandparents were into, like, in the Christian
Beauty?
context. Yeah, they
Yeah.
liked to do it up for holidays.
Yeah.
My parents got nothing from that. Like,
Interesting.
And just having my grandparents as a peripheral influence was very important to me, but it wasn't as formative as your
No,
relationship. But
Well, you may not have had the trauma that made it as important.
I was
as
gonna
that may
say,
be, but actually, what that is.
you took the cross,
Yeah,
the suffering route to get that.
I
So
certainly
it's yours.
did. Yeah, thanks a lot.
Yeah, well earned.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that is cool that I drew that card, because we also have this
Yeah,
one,
yeah.
me and Stella,
Yeah.
and then do you still have it, or did you give it back to me?
Here, it's right here.
Oh yeah. I love this deck. It's very detailed, and it's so random. You never know what you're gonna get, and I think this is very relevant to us in a partnership. I'm trying to keep track of all the things I wanted to talk about. Vedic astrology. Okay, so 8th from Venus. So wherever your Venus is, which we have a shared Venus and Scorpio. So it's actually 7 away on the wheel. I think maybe in India they count a little differently.
They
Like
do, I
start
know.
with 1.
Yeah.
But you start there at 8 and you count, like, so basically ours lands on the 3rd house in
Yes.
astrology.
Yeah.
Which is Gemini, media, communication. Like, so in order to feel okay when everything sucks, to get a little vitality, which is Venus, you count 7 away from your chart, from your Venus, and wherever that lands on the wheel of the houses, that category will revive you. So if your
I
Venus,
didn't know that.
I don't know if I'll do this math right. So if your Venus is in Libra, for instance, then I think Taurus energy would be what revives you, the 2nd house.
Are you working off of the circle?
The circle.
I'm going to go
of the
grab one
12.
out of the front room so we can look
Okay.
at it. Is that okay? Because I'd
yeah.
like to get a visual of what you're talking
Let's do that,
about.
yeah.
You keep talking, I'll go grab it.
Astrology is brand new to me, and honestly, I only got into it because of tarot. I started learning the representations on the tarot cards, and they tied in with astrology. I've always thought astrology was kind of like a collective fiction, but I've come to believe that our collective fictions become real. Like, we are co-creating reality with God, source, whatever. And at first, my idea with astrology was to expand the zodiac to include Ophiuchus and Cetus, the snake bearer, and the whale. I was going to do readings with 14 signs. And right away, I was getting messages from the cards, and like all the signs were saying, like, slow down. The 12 sign zodiac is still relevant, and you need to be focusing on it. Like, maybe the other constellations will come into the picture later, I do think they have important lessons for us, but I'm trying to go full speed ahead, and
This is pretty
we're not
good
there yet.
because it shows it pretty clearly, in the different colors.
So, if you have your full chart, you will need to know, well, with Venus, it's not so necessary to know your birth time. Let me make sure that you can see that. Okay, so for us, our Venus is in Scorpio. And then I think we count this way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, you just count
So what's the
counterclockwise.
Is that Cancer? Up there?
No,
can't
it's
see.
Gemini.
Oh, Gemini.
For us,
Thank
it's
you.
Gemini.
Okay.
So if your Venus is in Leo, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The energy of Pisces is what's going to revitalize you. So spirituality.
Okay.
The era of Christ was the era of Pisces. So it had a lot to do with, it was a huge spiritual revolution, and it's also very self-sacrificial. And the dark side of it is we dealt with a lot of addictions.
Yeah.
And we're going into the era of Aquarius, which is, it's an era of friendship and platonic love, which is why romantic love sucks right now. We're all kind of learning healthy separation.
Yeah.
I've come to terms with it. I'm okay. Poor suffering Libras.
Methinks she protests too much.
I'm just starting to complain.
Okay.
I took it with grace
I love
my
it.
entire life, and I'm just turning into a bitchy old woman for a moment and letting it happen. Anyway, that's
It's pretty funny.
just a few
love it.
little things I've been learning.
Now, let's just a minute. I want to talk about us for a minute. The main
Okay,
thing.
yeah, let's talk about us.
So if we want relief from the Venus and Scorpio nastiness,
It's not just from that. I think he said literally when nothing is working, when you feel depleted
yeah,
and you're just void.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Seven.
what would Gemini? What would that indicate that you would need?
So for us, we're doing this. We were already doing it. The thing
Okay.
that's revitalizing us.
Okay, so what is that? Use your words. What are the words for Geminis? Because I will admit that I have looked at Gemini very little.
Me too.
I
just learned.
probably know the least about Gemini of the entire Zodiac, even for me.
Same.
Really, you too?
And there are a lot of
Fascinating.
musicians. I see Gemini in titles of songs and albums a lot. Like I think a lot of musicians are Geminis. But yeah, this is an energy I have very little. I've never known one that I know of.
Maybe we need to look it up. I've got that giant book in there.
I know that it's to do with communication. It's the
Okay,
twins.
that's what I wanted to know. So communication.
So it can be a lot of dual, like maybe a little on the dark side, Jekyll and Hyde. Like
Great.
it's symbolized by the lovers in the tarot, the 6th card of the major arcana. So it's it contains our dualities. And I've just learned that my Chiron was retrograde in Gemini when I was born, which means I've sought recognition for my intelligence my whole life. Like I didn't get enough of that in past lives.
Okay.
The Chiron sign is where your woundedness is. So I'm wounded in the area of communication. I never feel understood, which is true.
So me too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I do feel that way.
Yeah, I don't know where your Chiron is, and unfortunately, Astro, whatever, or
Whatever that is we got.
CoStar
Yeah,
doesn't
CoStar
talk
doesn't
about
have it.
Chiron.
I've never even heard that term before, and I've been going to see people about charts all my life.
It's
Never
a more
heard that
recent
term.
thing. I think it
Interesting.
wasn't discovered until 1977.
Oh, okay. Well, that explains it. Yeah. Okay.
It's a
All
very
right.
recent incorporation
Yeah.
into the vocabulary, but we are going through a period of wounded healers, like rising up. Like all the people that have suffered during the Piscean age of Christendom are now becoming empowered. Like
Interesting.
where the crack is, that's where the light gets
comes
in.
through. Yeah.
And we're coming out as these beautiful vases with gold-filled cracks, you know? But yeah, Gemini rules media. So all the talk, which is very big in society right now.
Yeah,
like,
it is. It's gigantic.
And at first, like when Stella mentioned she wanted to do a podcast, I was like, oh my God, I don't want to be just another voice out there talking. But I've come to realize that's just where we're at. People need all the talking.
Yeah.
It's just like that point in an individual mind where it's just chattering, and you learn that you can find a stillness within that, and also not identify with all of it. Like you could do the same with your society. It's all going on around you. You don't have to take in any of it.
Yeah.
You can listen and let it pass through, and just let it pass.
I mentioned this last week, but I'll mention it again. Neuroscientists are saying, step back. Don't listen to the news 24 hours a day. No matter what version of the news you prefer, don't listen to it. I don't listen to it.
No, I completely
If I'm feeling
stopped.
delicate at all, I don't listen, because if it's really bad, we're going to know anyway. Let's get real.
Exactly.
You know?
What did you say the other day with the bomb? Like, was that on
The bomb.
camera?
Yeah,
or after?
Huberman. I was just thinking about that again.
Yeah.
Andrew Huberman, my Stanford scientist that I enjoy watching, he says that he leaves his phone in the basement so he can't go check it all day long. And he says, I assume if there's a nuclear attack, I'll know about it. and really, that's so true. You know, you don't need to have access to all that stuff for disaster.
And Bill Hicks, one of my favorite comedians, he's passed away because he was just too good for this world. He said, bombs, all I hear outside are crickets. Like,
Yeah.
that's the power of the present moment. Just realize that all of that stuff, it is potentially, look, this is deep metaphysical science, like, or not, I don't know if it's science.
No.
It's my personal version of science, but here's a random reveal. Like, I do view it all as fiction. Like, and if I were to turn on TV, even just that tuning in is an acknowledgement of that fiction that I don't want to create.
Yeah.
So I tune out and I create my own reality, and I'm shameless about that now because that's what we have to do. We have to realize that all of life is creation, and you are a creator just by your very nature of being human. That is the divine spark. And that's like, people have thought like the I am God phrase, like even Jesus Christ says in the Bible pretty plainly, like, ye are gods. Like, I don't understand how people just don't seem to notice the very obvious things like that. I guess it's picking and choosing, you know, cherry picking. But we are a spark of the divine. And that's not vanity. That's not delusion of grandeur. That is what it is. And people have delusions of grandeur. I've had an epic one. But it gets filtered through society's lens. So a lot of people with bipolar 1 will have a delusion of grandeur and think that they're a celebrity versus a spiritual entity. They'll see it as cultural, like that I'm a star for people versus a star from the stars, you know?
Mine has been more like that.
I think
mine's been the
all
spiritual
mental
version.
illness is spiritual awakening, trying to fit into these confines of society. Like they say, when you die, it's like taking off a tight shoe. That's what is happening. We're trying to fit our consciousness into shoes that don't fit, and it's like foot binding, like the Chinese
in Cinderella, in the original Cinderella
practice,
story, the sisters cut their toes off to try to fit in the glass slipper.
Oh my gosh, I actually didn't know that.
It's actually, I love the real Grimm's fairy tales. They're deep.
Yeah.
They are deep.
That's one of those things I'd have to be prepared to read.
Well, I can always.
I'm too psychologically fragile at the moment. Ironically, I feel stronger than ever and more fragile.
I'm being a little careful right now.
Yeah,
I really am. You know, and I mean, Dan and I discussed a medication last night. You know, about whether I should be taking a medication, and we decided not to. But I can feel it. I'm not sleeping right. I can feel that again. It's 3 to 5. I'm awake. Like wide awake.
Everyone needs to know what they need. Like,
yeah.
It depends on how I mean, I've always had more of a, like, if you can do it without medication, do that.
Well,
kind
I
of
did
perspective.
too. I
But
just
if
got to
you-
a point where that
I
wasn't
know,
possible.
it's much more, it's very
Yeah.
different for everybody. And I'm just a radical do-it-yourselfer when it comes to the individuation process.
Yeah.
Because that is the goal. It's more like I'm just fast-tracking it with that thought.
Yeah.
But you can go as slow as you want. I was even thinking about coffee this morning. Like, do I need this coffee? Like, or can I, if I did without it, how would I do? I probably should have, because now I'm really jittery on top of the.
Oh, so your body was already telling you.
Yeah.
If you
I think it was.
if you question, that's your body trying to let you know.
Yep. I
Yeah.
think my body
Yeah.
was like, no, you actually don't need this anymore.
Yeah.
But sometimes we do need our drugs of choice.
And actually, I had the opposite thing this week where I was taking a gummy from a very good medicinal shop in our town, and I have a high sensitivity to THC, so I have to be really careful because I hallucinate on it like people do on ayahuasca, and I throw up like people do on ayahuasca. So I don't always want that to happen, needless to say. So one night I had been taking a quarter of these things, because I was able to sleep 7 or 8 hours on a quarter of one. And one night I thought, I wonder if I need to take more, and I didn't. And I woke up 3 hours later,
Yeah.
and I did not get
Like,
much sleep that night at all.
that's the power
It's
of
like
listening to your gut.
My body, yeah, and that's what I told my husband. I said, we just need to listen to those little voices, because it's just easy to blow it off. And I've been listening to my little voice all my life, and I still blow it off in those moments.
Yeah. There's always more, like, you never reach a perfected state.
Nope.
Period.
To the
And-
swords.
Part of the human psychological trauma is all these notions that we're supposed to reach a perfected state. Aw,
Oh, and I got 2 7s.
the pearl of great price. That's your only opportunity for a perfected state. Your soul. Emotional force, opening up, experiential wisdom, honesty, intuition, perception, loyalty, the moon, subconscious mind, hidden things, diving deep, layers, developing character. What are we talking about?
Yeah. What's 7? Is that temperance in the major arcana?
Oh, it's the chariot. That doesn't look like
That's
a
not
chariot.
a chariot card. I don't know what.
Let me see.
Yeah. Here. Because I got the 2 of Swords and the 7 of Cups, so that makes sense. Choices.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Go inward. The subconscious.
Yeah.
It's got your answers.
I
I mean,
what we're doing.
Yeah, sometimes-
making choices about what's out in the world.
yeah.
That's what we're gonna focus on. I love this,
Okay.
but I don't.
We're talking a
understand
lot
what this
about
card.
individuation. I did
Yeah.
want to talk more about, like, straight up vanity, like what we do see in the entertainment industry that has people wanting to, has people seeking cosmetic surgeries, like more, like, it's reached an absurd point, I
Yeah.
think.
I do too.
Like, everyone needs to do what they want to do. And if you've thought long and hard about whatever surgery or procedure you want to undergo, go for it. But the scale of it, how it's affecting young women and young men, but
No, man, too.
I mean,
It's not just
it's
women
everyone.
anymore.
I guess my sympathy really goes out to young women because I went through that crisis of, like, I have to be skinny, I have to be beautiful, or I have no value, like, and it was way worse than I even thought as I was going through it. My high school journals are full of me chastising myself for, I literally said the words, I'm shaming myself for not being anorexic enough. Like, that's what surprises me, like, when we are so aware of something that's so bad, but we don't see it as bad because whatever achievement the goal or that the ego wants it's so much stronger. Whatever the ego needs for validation totally overrides all other logic. It's wild. And it's funny to me that we live in such an era of body positivity, and there's still so much.
That's what I was sitting here thinking.
Like, what is that? I just don't even know.
Well, it's in the end, it's always about control.
Mm-hmm.
You know, controlling yourself, controlling other people, you know, but it's always about control. If there's a shame and blame going on, it's about control.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it does grieve me that this is still going on, but I also take some hope in the fact that it's now men are starting to feel that way too, and that's when it'll change.
Yeah.
You know, because of the
has
way
to be.
society has been. You know, it's going to take men feeling all this body shaming stuff, and they are now. And I'm sorry, because I don't want anybody to be shamed. I think you should look
process.
I think you should look like you lived and learned some things.
Right.
That's what I think personally.
The Velveteen Rabbit.
I really I really personally am creeped out. I'm just absolutely creeped out by looking at a face that's had enough done to it that they can't even express the range of emotion anymore.
Yeah.
And
or
some of
even
my favorite actors currently look like that.
Gwen Stefani.
Who are even younger than I am.
Gwen Stefani, it looks gorgeous. Whatever
Yeah,
work
she looks
she's had
beautiful.
done,
Yeah.
because she was so, like, typically beautiful
Yes.
before.
Yeah.
So, the work, I guess, good job, but who is she? Like, I feel like people are just making mannequins of themselves, and again, pawning off their individuality, their individuation process to an outside.
Well, our
thing.
entertainment merchant, the merchant portion of our entertainment society is set up so that men too now feel like they have to get stuff done to their faces to look eternally 13 or 14, which is hilarious when you think that that's
creepy.
the first like major hormonal surge, you know, and you couldn't be even any crazier than you are at that age.
Yeah.
And that's what our society is holding up as the end all to be all that we all need to be 14 forever.
It's like crisis level.
Excuse me. Yeah.
That's all I feel inside of me today is emergency sirens.
Oh,
that's how my
interesting.
my spiritual emergency started. Well, there's just
Do
a
we
lot
need
of
to- do we need to be
EMTs.
concerned, sweetie?
No.
You
I'm
sure?
just saying
Okay. Well, because
this is the kind of thing. That's why
Yeah.
that's why I'm talking about it openly.
Okay, good.
Because it's all happening right in front of us. So we're all sitting at home watching the world go insane and being made to feel like we're the ones that are insane. And I know it's not just me that feels this. I just have more of a right brain that will slide right into God mode and have hallucinations. And I've enjoyed that, you know. I know how to balance it now. I'm not hearing sirens. That's how my spiritual emergency started, because it was a spiritual emergency. It was like angels, like the sirens were angels, like, hey girl, there's something you need to be, it's big, it's a big
I'm glad
deal.
you're talking about this because it's different for everybody.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
And when you're sliding into hallucinations, it's so gradual and you don't realize it. I didn't realize until, like, I was literally going out in public, like, just, I wasn't doing anything too crazy, but it culminated in something pretty crazy that finally, like,
Could you actually say what it is for us?
I was trying
Are
to
you
figure
too
out if I should or
embarrassed?
not. It's not embarrassment. It's more
Okay.
like the topic, like where we're at. Okay, well, it was a grandiose delusion, kind of.
I
So
think
that's
people
on
need
topic.
to understand this. You know?
Yeah, I think I want to. Maybe I'll just talk about it in several different ways, in several, like.
Yeah, let's do it.
So what got me into the mental hospital is I was looking for something that was precious to me. I had this whole narrative in my head. It's the St. Anthony, like something that's lost it must be found.
Yeah.
I was on some kind of treasure hunt. And I went to this restaurant in downtown Columbus, and I knew exactly where to go somehow. This booth in the very back, I knew there was something at that table that belonged to me, and I had to get it. And I got back there. There's a bunch of guys sitting at the table. There's this Felix notebook it's just a little notebook that people had drawn they had drawn cartoons and stuff in it. And I was like, here it is. This is my thing. I went and stole this book off of stranger's table. And I was just like, thanks. And I like swished my hair, like, because I was like, in this narrative in my head, they had stolen it from me. Like, and it goes along with the female, like the masculine ripping off the feminine. There's a huge theme of like divine feminine anger in this whole episode. So I took it back, and I knew I was going to be like criminalized for getting my own thing back. And I put myself into a police cruiser. Like, of course, the police were called on me, and downtown Columbus, they were right there. I put myself into the police cruiser and was going on this whole rant to the police. And
God, Jesus.
And they put me in an EMT.
Yeah.
So that's how that went. And I mean, that's just one chapter in that. This is what I want to get into TV and film for, because there are things I want to tell that only fit a visual format. Like, there's just no...
And see, I think folks like us need to be doing some of the writing, because currently there's more about bipolar on shows than there was before, but the people who are consulting are bipolar too. They don't have these experiences.
I was going to say,
and you can tell when you watch the shows, because it's a different beast entirely.
You sent me an article today, and my first response was a little bit of like eye rolling too, because
me too. I did the same thing when I first read it. I was like, "Oh, please!"
Now it's become cool.
Yeah, and
it's another way that people can step up and have a story, steal a story.
Yeah.
Like, I'm this. Here's my story. And I'm not saying that's invalid for any of them necessarily, but it is, again, writing off your individual experience for a narrative in society, because I'm trying to get rid of the bipolar 1 title.
We both are. I want to get rid of it too, because I think it's just an extreme state of dis-ease.
Yes.
It starts with anxiety producing experiences, and that snowball keeps rolling down the mountain, if nobody stops it. And
it's
in
an
this society,
point.
It doesn't get stopped enough.
It is an entry point for spiritual reality.
Yeah,
like, it's spiritual reality telling us, you have to recognize me. If you don't want to recognize me now, I will tear away the things that are valuable to you. You will have tower moment after tower moment. And if you don't recognize those, then at least I'll get you when you die. Like, I feel like the will of God is... I used to be very against the whole like fear of God thing, but it is fearsome. Even the beauty of God is fearsome beauty. My mom said the other day, we were talking about what weed does to her, and she was like, I don't want to talk to any demons today. And I was like, the first thing I came out with
too,
is,
so do I
said, well, angels are terrifying too.
Yeah.
They are.
Yeah.
So I think the intensity of our experiences has to come out. Like, it is just, I am feeling all the adrenaline of it.
I think the intensity is something that sets us apart. I do. Or maybe it's just the kind of intensity.
We have different.
Maybe it's the kind of intensity. Well, what I was thinking is that, like, I know I was talking to a friend that you've met, Cards, okay, and one time, and I said, well, I said, anytime I feel anything, it's going to be big. It's big feeling. It isn't ever a little feeling. It's big, and I do think that people who have slid far enough to see things other people aren't seeing do react in a bigger way. And that's why art's so important, because you need an outlet for that, for those big feelings. Everybody does. And I'm just going to toss my 2 cents in here. I believe art is a natural human expression. I believe that's what we are, is we're art animals.
We are.
You know, so we sing, we speak, we paint, we draw, we tap on things and make a rhythm.
Yeah.
You know, that's what we do. You know, I really
Beauty
believe that's the kind
makers.
of, I think that's the kind of animal we are.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's what our thing is that we do.
And I immediately relaxed just as soon
I
as you
saw
started
that. Your
saying
whole body
that.
just,
Because I'm in defense mode all the time, trying to defend beauty.
you don't have to in this house, as you well know.
I know.
So
but it's so hard to find those safe spaces that aren't tainted by the ego and by money.
I know.
Because
Yeah.
I've totally given up on having an artistic self-concept. Because I don't want to be an artist as the world is treating it right
But
now.
apparently you haven't, because we met.
Exactly. Like, I never have been able to.
I believe we
I
met
still
to
make
pull
my
each
own
other
art.
forward.
I actually,
You know,
yeah.
I really do.
Talking about me, and narcissism, this morning I woke up thinking about all the blogs I've written.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, writing this whole commercial in my head, like, I've written 3 giant books. Each of them is $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all, like, you get no preview about what's in these. It's just going to be a mystery, but it's great.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's 50 years in the future when you're seeing this, please adjust that number for inflation. So like 1,300,000, I don't know. But I was just like putting the price that I value myself at in this little fantasy. And that's the whole reason. I'm like, that's the reason I don't try to become an artist, is because I like what I do too much to discredit it by trying to share it with people that aren't. It is the pearl of great price thing. The don't cast pearls before swine.
Fine. Yeah.
And I felt so guilty about feeling that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, I'm so mad now that I just don't care about whatever level of vanity other people perceive in that. What I love about my writing is how authentic. God, now I'm getting all teary. I'm
It's
getting so
okay.
good at controlling it, though. No, I am going to control it because I need to.
Okay.
But
Are you sure? Because
Yeah.
you know that's your body releasing cortisol, and you
I
probably
cry
do
plenty.
need to release your cortisol.
I cry plenty,
Okay.
I promise.
All right. I never see you cry, so
Yeah, I've been controlling it very well. Have you seen me tear up?
no.
Like yesterday, I definitely did.
Did you? I
Uh-huh.
didn't. I didn't see it. Well, no, I
That's
did.
good to
Yeah,
know.
I did.
Oh, okay,
No, I
okay.
did. Yeah.
I get the misty eye a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just I've gotten to the point where I'm like, nobody really deserves to see my soul until like now. I'm gonna be materially compensated for it at the very least. That's my unrestrained Taurus North Node. It's my assignment, my soul's assignment. I get to say that now. It's not greed.
I like that. Yeah.
Any thoughts?
Nope.
You're a Capricorn North Node.
Yeah,
Let's
I
talk
am.
about you now.
Yeah, mine's not that different than yours, really. You know, I read them both, and I saw how compatible they were.
I know.
Because they're both about being visible in this lifetime. Both of us have that one. And we both have that freaky thing that pretty people often have, which is feeling threatened by attention in real life, out in real life. You know?
It's become that way for me.
Yeah, I
At
never
first
mind. I
ate
never
it up.
minded on stage or in front of a camera, but in real life, that it does bother me.
Well, it was
you know.
actual danger for you.
Yeah, it was.
I
And-
never registered it as that,
Yeah.
even though it was when I was, especially in
Yeah.
my 20s.
Yeah.
But my ego, the feminine ego, needed so much validation that I just was like, yeah, I just took it as that instead of as the abuse that it was often.
I just always felt like it was dangerous. You know, I mean, I didn't even ever get to anything else. It just felt dangerous. And what's interesting to me is it was just as dangerous if it was women.
Yeah.
Saying
Oh,
that
I
looked
have a lot.
both ways. It was dangerous both ways. You know.
Yeah. I have a lot of wounded feminine
Yeah.
stuff.
And that's so the rest of my Capricorn, one of it's getting comfortable with being noticed and and seen and all that, and spirituality, and also being willing to step up and be the leader. Because as you know, I've had massive issues with that one too.
We've both got that, yeah.
And what I finally realized, and I think it applies to other strong women I've known, women that have maybe a little more testosterone than some other women do, is that because of the way we've been raised, I'm talking about my age group here, so baby boomers, you know, I can't speak to millennials and Gen Zers as much, but the way we were raised, when we go into a situation, you when we were younger, you would tend to hold back because you weren't supposed to exceed any male ever.
Yeah.
So, you know, that just makes for a pretty messy life, because what happens is if you're a strong person and you go out into the world and you're holding back, people don't trust you because they feel that holding back, and it doesn't feel safe. It's an unsafe feeling, you know? And that's what I didn't realize about myself, because I will say this, I'm honest as the day is long.
Yeah.
I mean,
I viewed that as like my fatal flaw in relationships. Like,
yeah, I've suffered a little bit from all that myself.
It's like, and it takes time to appreciate. You have to learn
Yeah.
through being hurt by the opposite, which is the festering silence and ignoring of shadows and whatnot. Like you and I, we just cut to the chase. Like, okay, I see the road if we don't do this.
Yeah.
And even the road, if we do address it, is bad. Either way, like for me, it's almost always been relationship termination. People don't want to, or it's like my mom said that one time, like, I don't want to work on myself today. Like,
just love that.
People like me and Stella.
That. I don't want to work on myself today.
Always working on ourselves.
But I do like that somebody was able to say that.
Me too.
I'm not that person.
If only in our
I wanted to be this morning. When I woke up, I was like, I just don't want to think about anything. I don't want to mess with this mess anymore. You know, but I can't stop. It's always twirling around, you know. So I love that your mom says that. I don't want to think about this today. I'm like, yes.
Yeah, we see. We
Is she
also
more
do
logic
this.
Oriented?
Oh yeah,
Because that sounds like what my
she's very emotional.
It sounds like what my granddaughter would say. You know,
Yeah.
but she's a little more on the logic side. You know, and that's exactly what a 4-year-old logic person would say. You know.
Not today.
Not today. I'm not doing it today. You know, that's so funny.
And I have learned to step back, like especially in relationships. Like, okay, just work on yourself. Don't try to get the other person to
I
work
know,
on
because I was always trying to get everybody to come on the train with me.
Yeah.
Because I saw it. I know that people think that other people are trying to control them, but for people like us, the softies, the soft-hearted folks, when we're trying to do it, we're trying to save everybody. It isn't about controlling other people. Ours isn't framed that way in our minds. In our minds, we're trying to save them. We're trying to take care of them.
Either that or...
You know, and it can turn into a controlling feeling thing for the other person, because we're trying so hard. We just want to save everybody.
Not just that, but it's to be on an adventure with someone.
Yeah.
The modern way of being is you get comfy in your little situation and you turn everything off and you turn the TV on. Like, that's just not going to work for me.
No.
Ever.
Yeah.
I love those lazy moments. I binge watch TV shows, you know. It's got a time and a place, though, and it's, especially now, very rare.
That's what that word rare was going through my mind, too, that I thought that possibly it should be rare.
Yeah, it should be,
You know?
instead of the whole culture. And, like, getting to know another person is getting to know what they tune into on entertainment channels. Like, it's not getting to know the person. It's, what are you watching? What are you listening to? Like, that's how
I don't see as many strangers as you do, because you've got the advantage of being an Uber. You know, and maybe so that's why I think maybe I should be doing it some too.
You probably would like it,
because when I didn't, I just wouldn't do it. That's how I did cosmetics after I had brain damage. Is that if I wasn't feeling well, I would say I was booked.
Yeah.
You know, because they didn't know.
Yeah.
But I think for writers, it's important to be around other people, because you hear and see things, you know, that just seem to come out of the blue.
Well,
you know,
yeah,
because
now that you're talking about that,
them. You know,
people do get in deep with me. It's the one-on-one.
Yeah.
You know,
it's
when you
in
get
the car. Well, and in the
that's
car, you're
when-
only 3 feet from
exactly
at the most from the person you're talking to. It's a very intimate situation.
Yeah, yeah.
You know.
What always stresses me out is when, yeah, again, it comes back to like romantic relationships. When you just are comfortable with someone and there's no further growth, and every nudge you make is either perceived as like pressure and you're trying to change me, or there's just a fundamental lack of, or it seems like there's a feeling of unsafety underneath so many relationships, love relationships. And if you were to, like, any little criticism makes that unsafe feeling just.
Well, I think that's where it's important to live in an aware or mindful, bring those words back from last week, an aware or mindful way. Because if you both become that way, and I can speak to this because I've been married 30 years, is that if you both have come to that, gotten to that point, and that can be with your spirituality, it could be with therapy, it could be with sports, you know, there are lots of things that teach moving forward with conflict when you're uncomfortable. I think that's the great value of sports, personally. Because it teaches you to get past your body. Gets past your body. And I can speak about my marriage. My husband's tends to have been more that way, and I was pretty well split. I did a lot of physical things, but not to the extreme that he did. You know, my extremes were in my mind.
Yeah.
You know, that's where my addiction showed, was in my mind. You know, I just never stopped thinking and reading about everything. You know, no boundaries anywhere. You know, if I heard anything halfway interesting at all, boom, I'm in a book. You know, and I've just broken that. I'm going to be 68 in a couple of months now. And I really just broke that habit the last 2 years.
Like information addiction?
Yeah, absolutely. But not information like people think about it now. Mine was philosophy, spirituality, herbs, nature, you know, all of that kind of stuff. You know, not information like what the latest music group is doing or whatever. I do some of that because I'm a musician and I'm interested. But no, the 24 hours a day
news
binging.
Of the day.
No,
you're into the Eternals.
The Eternals, yeah. Thank you. That is more where my taste goes.
Me too.
But that just leaves you endless reading you can do because that kind of writing's been going on for thousands of years. You know.
I think that goes with.
Bless you.
Oh, that crumb is in it.
I know when they get down your throat, it's like fur ball.
Now I'm crying for a different reason.
And I miss my cat.
Kaza,
yeah.
There's some graffiti artist around Tulsa. It's Kaza, Kaza. I started seeing
That's so close to Kaza. That's so funny.
I started seeing it like a day before you told me he was dying. He or she, I don't even.
She died.
Sweet little kitty.
Yeah, she was.
But
wonderful.
she was starting to become skin and bones. Like I could tell, like something's got to be up because I know Stella's feeding her.
Yeah.
I'm just so glad I got to meet her.
Yeah.
But she's across the Rainbow Bridge now. Lucky duck. I was just thinking last night about how much, that's part of the Five of Cups feeling that I'm having is with all of my experiences, like I know the other side is better. I know that it's hard to be here. And it's made it better to be here knowing that the other side is there. That spiritual life, like consciousness is eternal, and the bliss that you feel, being closer to spirit than you are ego, is undeniable. But it does make it so hard to be an ego, to figure out what to do with the ego.
Well, I heard you talking about ego earlier, and I was upstairs, so I didn't yell over the balcony.
I was really struggling. I'm like, I might cut that out.
I had a thought about that. Don't cut it out, because I've got something to add to it. Excuse me, I got teary-eyed too.
Yeah.
Kitty.
Yeah.
Is that I think the ego is getting bashed a lot right now, and you know, it probably deserves it to some extent. But the ego, I believe at this point in my life, and this point in my reading life too, that ego is simply what the brain is built up to keep you alive in the forest of life.
Yeah.
You know, and I know 2 years ago, was it 2 years ago? Or was it just last year? I think it was just last year. Part of my manic pattern has been that I see delight everywhere. And it isn't like little delight. I mean, it's like
screaming delight.
Screaming delight. That is the difference. Mm-hmm. Other people see little things and they go, oh, isn't that cute? And I'm like, oh my God! It's a miracle!
Do you see?
Yeah, do you see that crumb? Isn't that beautiful? I mean, that's mania.
There's a speck of light.
There's
on
a
the
speck of
crumb
light right
that
there.
is
Yes.
Putting a rainbow on that wall.
Yes, that is mania.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's why bipolar 2 people aren't that motivated to take medication all the time, because that's the fun part of mania. Yeah. Unfortunately, bipolar 1, it goes way past that. That's just the first. It's just the first yield sign in the road for me. Because here's where I'm going. Okay, for me, because I'm older, I came up during a different way of treating dis-ease. Okay. Yeah. And so mine got worse and worse and worse and worse. And so what I realized is, this is what happened one evening. I've got a skylight in every bedroom in the upstairs of this house. And that's not helpful if you've got sensitivity to light. And so I had talked to my husband about blocking that skylight in this one little room. Okay. And we did it, and it was still letting light through. And I thought of something to make it dark, and I got that giant rush of adrenaline. Like, wow, this is so cool, I'm gonna sleep. Well, of course, the minute that happened, I wasn't gonna sleep, was I? You know, and I recognized it in the...
The universe is so good.
Yeah.
Provide me this awesome...
So I recognized it in the moment. And so I've trained a lot of animals and boys. So what I did is I went into animal training mode immediately, and I talked to my brain, and I went, I want to thank you. Because I'd come up with this forest philosophy idea already, so I'd already been thinking this way. Okay, so I thanked my brain for choosing to use delight to keep me on this planet all these years. Because if that hadn't been going on, I would have been dead many, many, many years ago. Because I know now that even though I didn't remember it, underneath I was blaming myself for being raped and what that did to my family. And I thanked my brain, you know, for fighting those things for me and keeping me alive all this time. And then I said, but we don't need that anymore, because I own this house. I own the house. Yeah. It's my house, my home, my walls, my dogs, and my doors. And so I kind of went through the whole thing, you know, talking to the brain.
Yeah.
And I went, so the body is safe, and you don't need to do this anymore. And I stopped having those giant reactions.
Amazing. See, this is the potential control that we have, just communicating with the various parts of ourselves and seeing the brain also as an eternally evolving organ.
Yes.
Like, it is listening.
It has a job.
Yeah.
And it is listening.
I mean,
it can.
It's one of those awarenesses that can almost feel creepy at times. If you get too, like...
Well, I don't know about you, but I'm getting freaked out, and I'm having issues with, like, being afraid of being alive.
Yeah, of just being what
going
we are,
through this.
Like,
yes, I am. Yes, that's how I woke up the last 2 days, filled with
existential dread.
Thank you.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's a perfect phrase. That is the perfect phrase. Existential dread. Absolutely.
The soul is knit so finely into this thing.
Yeah.
And it's too real. Like, that's what a hallucination is.
Yeah.
It is too realness.
It's not any different. You're so right. Mm-hmm. This whole reality is no different than what we go through when we're hallucinating.
Yeah.
Because when I'm hallucinating, and I do demons, I think I'm maybe more like your mom that way. I've got demons in my life. I have had. And dead people that come to me for help to be passing over. I've had those kinds of things too. But it's like... what was I saying?
You said they're the same, like hallucinations in real life. Like, I wasn't sure where you were
because
going.
Here's my opinion about real life and a regular brain. Okay, a brain that hasn't been stressed beyond belief. You know, so it's functioning without the hallucinations all the time and everything. Because sometimes those can be good. You know, I mean, people saw angels in the Bible.
Yeah.
You know, so, but I think that what the difference is between when it's good and it's not so good is that intensity, the adrenaline, the constant adrenaline in your body, and it's wearing you down, and that's when then it starts to take a turn, maybe, you know, and not be such a good thing.
Well, even when it's
You know.
really great feeling, you know, we have realized that it's still not so good because you cease to share the reality with others, for one. And part of being here, the soul is learning construct and limitation. That's what the planet Saturn and Jupiter are kind of opposites. Jupiter is the planet of expansion.
Sagittarius.
Saturn is the planet of limitation and boundary. You have to have both. You can't just expand
Endlessly.
Okay, if you want to look out into the cosmos and you just see like dust clouds and it's beautiful, but it's just expanding stuff. There's no form to it. Like that's Jupiter out of control. You need Saturn to create a universe, like a functioning world. So mania is really just unchecked Jupiter.
Yeah, that's one way to look at it. Yeah.
That's how I've looked at it. And
Yeah.
I've wondered, like, I really don't have the trauma background, like, at all that other people have. So I've wondered, like, I think our imaginations go a little wild. Like, we think, oh my God, do I have repressed childhood trauma? Or, you know, I definitely have thought about that. But ultimately, I think I've realized that just being alive in a society is traumatic, that isn't balanced, that is overly masculine or overly toxic feminine even. We're going through, that's the topic.
You have alcoholism in your family, right?
Actually, not really.
Well,
I think alcoholism is, my brother, but I think it's cultural more so. I kind of have, I don't know what I think about genetics versus like the cultural conditioning. Alcoholism, I see it everywhere. That's why I fell into it. I was just like, fuck it, I'll just
and I never
drink
did.
it away too.
That's where we're different too. I never did.
I have had friends that never did as well, so it's ironic that I would.
That you did, yeah.
It was just my choice, my drug of choice, because I went with the delight rationalization. Like, it's delightful to come home and have a glass or two of wine. It's delightful to finish the whole bottle.
And see, I didn't like
It's
feeling out of
delightful.
control because I'd been out of control all my childhood. You know, these big visions would come and yeah, they're beautiful, but you're not in control when that's happening. Or I wasn't. I'll say that. I'll just speak for myself. This thing started when I was a kid and there was never any control. It would just, there'd just be this downpour of stuff from God.
Yeah.
About God and about the universe and about people.
Mine was definitely
and it's
self-esteem.
exhausting.
Yeah.
It's exhausting. It's physically and mentally and emotionally exhausting. And that's something I don't think people talk about nearly enough. Maybe because we're only hearing from really bipolar 2 people. And they don't reach that end of the rainbow, as it were, you know, because it's not as hard on their bodies.
Yeah, and I'm just now starting to actually, because of the diagnosis, like view the negative sides. Or I guess I was already. That's why I turned into an alcoholic. I was like, well, fine, if everyone just thinks this is terrible and that nobody should be happy, like, because I really did, like, I was just a genuinely happy soul. Even when I was a baby, like my mom always says, the Germans loved you because you were just so happy and free. And I felt like grown humans just hate any other grown human that's happy. Like,
no, grown humans who are unhappy.
Exactly. I learned later
because
that,
my younger son was that very happy, bouncy child, as was I. And my husband responded negatively to that.
Even as a child? Like
he didn't like that our younger son was so bouncy, happy, and in love with his image in the mirror and all that. He thought something was wrong with him.
Oh, wow. See, I didn't get the condemnation as a kid.
Oh, yeah.
I came away as a young adult thinking, wow, everybody loves happiness when it's a puppy or a baby. But the moment you, maybe even past 18, because a happy teenager is likable.
Yeah.
But you can't be happy in an adult. And I know that's
interesting.
Not, or people assume that something is wrong underneath it or something. But I think I was at a very healthy point. And if I had a mentor or something with shamanism or, you know, that wasn't just like my fellow college student who dabbled in ayahuasca, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
Jeez. Yeah.
Things like that, like an actual elder. That's why we're really trying to focus on.
Yeah, that's actually.
I'm calling it the crone age.
Yeah.
Like, no matter what age you are as a woman, the divine feminine, the high priestess, she is a woman who contains her entire lifespan within her. She can tap into her maiden, her mother, or her crone energy whenever she wants. Every woman needs to feel that and realize that. Like, that was my big hallucination, was like, I felt like I could see my entire life. There's some word for like the image of, it's like a worm shape, like the shape your body makes as it travels in linear time from start to end. So it's like I was living that experience, like seeing the whole path of my being in this earth plane. And I mean, it's very hard for me to just call that mental illness. Like, it was.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's one reason we're doing this. You know?
I wish I remembered that word. It's just a really ugly word.
I can't do the.
The worm that you're. Whatever.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe I'll find it at some point.
Yeah, I can't picture what you're thinking about.
Where was I going? I'm sorry. I really ran off into the sunset with something.
Let's see.
Let's flip the card.
1223.
I'm lost. Ah, 8 of crystals. The
I was
8 of
thinking about
pentacles.
pulling a card too.
Yeah.
Should I stay with tarot or go to
trying to
an
stay
oracle?
steady.
Does it matter?
I don't care. The 8 of Pentacles is something I've had in mind a lot because it is kind of a temperance card. It is applying yourself consistently and daily to a task,
to your work.
to master
Yeah.
it. And that's what's keeping me down when I get manic too. Is like, okay, just bring it down because you're trying to be level and produce something consistent that will create value in the future. So yeah, that's actually been very handy for me, and it even helped me just now with
say it.
the manic feeling.
Just to say it out loud. Yeah, I think it's important to say things. Because I told you, my husband and I did that this week. You know, we both of us were feeling. Was it yesterday? We were both, because you and I met yesterday. My husband and I were both feeling off, and so we just sat over his coffee and my water in the morning, and we just talked about how off we each felt, you know, and we both felt a little bit better when it was all said and done, you know,
the
just to say
philosophy thing, like just grumble if you have to,
like,
whatever.
Growl a little bit. That's what the animals do. They just growl at each other, and the other one knows, okay, well, I need to go somewhere else right now.
Yeah, I didn't understand that when I was younger, and I think, like, I there are a few things. What? Oh. She's got the 2 of Swords, the Ace of Pentacles, the Chariot, the 5 of Swords, and the 10 of Swords.
No, seven of Cups. Yeah, 7 of Cups is this one.
Oh, okay. I was like, what's? I thought that was an X on the bottom.
I know it's
that's
a cup.
A cup. Oh,
yeah,
okay,
that's their cup. So the way I saw it is the 2 of Swords is like, you know, internal decision making. Ace of Pentacles is a beginning, which is, this so spells out what we're doing right now. You know, our work.
Yep.
You know,
pure
and then,
manifestation energy. We're ready to bring things.
And the Chariot, we're choosing directions and we're experimenting, and I do like this one because there's the reminder, prayer. You know, stay centered and prayerful.
Yeah, and the Chariot, he's got a canopy of stars overhead, and it is the major arcana card for Cancer, which you wouldn't think so because there's a lot of aggressive energy in the guy's
you wouldn't
face.
think that. I wouldn't think that either.
But it really is like strengthening and mastering your emotions so that you can carry out your soul's mission.
Yeah.
I love the Chariot card.
Yeah, and then I got the 5 of Swords between the Chariot and the Seven of Cups, and this is like when you have a
Seven,
lot of
seven.
things you could be doing, you know. Yeah, that's right. Here's 7 and 7.
And then that adds up to 7.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
We
it
got
does.
lucky 7s.
Yeah.
The Five of
and
Swords is a little.
And
I don't like
well,
looking at that card.
but to me, it makes sense between the Chariot and the Seven of Cups.
Mm-hmm.
It makes total sense.
Yeah, because you have to whittle away.
Yeah, what I said is
isn't
slice
right
and
for you.
dice.
Yeah.
You're slicing and dicing. You know, some things stay, some things don't.
And I call the Five of Swords the like winning but at what cost card, because you've got a victor there in the foreground who's got all the swords and two figures are walking away, and it really looks like the figure won all those swords unfairly, or there was some kind of uneasy
there's an
interaction
uncertainty.
there.
Yeah, you don't
socially.
know. Yeah.
But I'm really coming to terms with, like, that card, the Astrological Association is Venus in Aquarius.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, that doesn't make sense at all.
Hot. Yeah. Air sign.
But air sign, yes. Yeah. And it's relationship, like Venus, love, and money as well. People don't, I didn't realize that before, but Venus rules, like, it's Taurian. It rules the manifested world, our pocketbook.
What we value.
Yeah, what we value, exactly.
Yeah, I think that'd
That's
be
the
an
second
easier way to
house.
think about it. It's what we value, you know.
Yep, and you have to cut some things out, you know?
Yeah.
And sometimes you overcut. And I think that would be the main message of the Five of Swords is, like, okay, you got a little too into the project there and maybe hurt feelings or, you know.
Or just what I used to call sloppy thinking.
Yeah.
Yesterday morning when I was freaking out, before I realized what I needed to do not to freak out, I realized that as usual, my perfectionism was stepping in.
Oh, I wanted to talk about that. I thought about it right before we turned on the camera.
That is a major part of my mania.
Yep.
It really gets triggered by anything where my perfectionism can kick in, which is kind of hellish because with art, my perfectionism always kicks in.
Well, that's why we haven't done anything with it yet.
Yeah.
Because
we're preparing. We're trying to get ourselves really centered.
Like for writing for me, I always viewed it as like, oh, I'm just getting my million crappy words out of the way because they say.
Well, and
like,
you were.
And I really was.
Yeah, you really were.
But then
That's
I was
great.
like, I'm probably on like 3 million now.
Yeah.
Am I still writing?
I told you when I looked at your book, I saw something, a truly poetic phrase on every single page.
And that's my specialty. I can do that.
Yeah.
But I can't form a cohesive work. The Eight of Pentacles. I can't seem to
We're
do
gonna
that.
do that together.
We're going to do that. We're going to
do that
We're going to
together.
spin all the plates all at once.
Yes, we are.
Because I think
Together.
that's how bipolar
Yeah.
that's how our minds have to do it. It's like we have to be, I even wrote on my whiteboard, my marker board, like, here's what you'll do on the blog. Here's what you'll do on your typewriter.
Yes.
And here's what you'll do on camera.
Yes.
Like, if you have these 3 projects going, you won't get too bored with one and quit. It didn't work. It still didn't work. Because I was alone.
Well, and I'm so glad we're together because I have awakened terrified 2 days in a row.
And
I see that when I've come to this spot in the past,
you didn't have someone else there.
I didn't have somebody else there
Come on.
going, yeah, who was more like me. Trish, who may be with us on camera next week.
Oh, that would be so cool.
Yeah, I just thought of that.
She'll be here.
She probably, if she sees this before she comes, she'll probably grimace because she didn't want to be. She doesn't really want to be in front of people. She likes being behind the camera.
If she doesn't want to be on camera, maybe she can do like different shots.
Stand over here and talk to us or something. Yeah.
And she can yell stuff at us.
Yeah, maybe yell at us next week, boss us around a little bit, make us feel better.
We'll do a haunted house. She can play the ghost.
Yeah, there you go. I love it. Yeah. Why did I bring? Shoot,
your dynamic with her is different, so we can encourage.
Yeah.
Pull each
I
other
think
in.
we can pull each other in because we're so much the same that I think in desperate moments I hope we'll be able to keep going because I'm hoping it'll be like an exercise partner where, in my experience, when you have an exercise partner, one of you always wants to go on the walk or the run or the ride or whatever. And there's always somebody that doesn't. But you can usually keep each other going that way. I've done great with partners.
I sensed that in your text this morning when you asked if we were meeting at 10
yeah,
or
10 or 1, I know.
I knew you wanted it to be 1, and I was like, nope, we're doing this. see you at 10.
But I didn't.
Like 10,
I didn't
15.
say it though. I didn't say let's wait. I just said which one is it because I couldn't remember what we did last week because we were together for so long. We were together till like 3:00 in the afternoon last week.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I thought, did we really meet at 10 or did we start at 1? And that's why we were together at 3.
Yeah.
I really couldn't remember. But yes, I was on the couch under the blanket with the Chihuahua on me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's my Chihuahua is trained to know when I've got PTSD going on.
Ah, yeah.
And so she'll lay on me and not move when I'm like that. And so that's probably good. You know, because I think I needed to just be there for a while and like meditate and really kind of unwind a little bit, you know, start to think about things a little bit. And I always do better after we've been together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
there hasn't been one time I haven't.
I don't think I've ever had a relationship with another person where we can get together almost every day.
Yeah.
And I don't reach a point where I'm like, okay,
I need a break. Yeah, I don't either.
Like, I have it to the extent that I'm like, oh, I have to work.
We have things we have to work on.
Oh, crap. I have other things in my life.
Mm-hmm.
But that's really it. So,
yeah.
And we've already noticed patterns like, oh, I want to tell the story of how we both came up with this exact same logo.
We didn't say that
talk
already?
about this on the podcast.
Oh my gosh. Tell the story.
It was like 2 a.m.
This was after we...
Both
was it the first week we met? Was it that early?
Later.
Or was it later?
It might have been like a month in.
A month in. Okay. All right.
Well, I don't know. We'll look. But yeah, I just woke up in the middle of the night with a random insomnia.
At 2 o'clock.
And I just went to Canva and threw this together really quick.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was just a thing to get me to go back to sleep.
Yeah.
And to get us started with this name. And then I'll have to just put a picture here of her little mock-up. She was up at the same time drawing basically the exact same thing.
Yeah, it was hand drawn, so it wasn't as nice. But
and then we shared it the next day when we got together. Like, what the?
Yeah.
And there's been another.
There have been a couple of more things like that. I don't remember what they were now,
like
but we're
in alignment.
Locked. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're locked
it's
in.
Very cool. Like, if I wasn't already very well versed in this with like potential twin flame relationship or like other alignments like this in life, I would be like, what the? It would be a spiritual awakening point. But I guess the thing about spiritual awakening is it never ends.
Yeah.
Like, once you have your first one, they just get.
Yeah, because I've had many.
There's more and more and more.
And I just think we were both ready. You know, and we're both feeling the same pull about what we're supposed to be doing. Mm-hmm. And so hopefully we'll be able to keep each other healthy enough to do it and also move past our fears.
Yeah.
You know, because I can't believe how afraid I'm feeling. You know, it's so weird because when we first started out, you know, I felt no fear, of course. It was all the excitement because I've been thinking about this stuff forever and writing stuff about something like this forever. Mm-hmm. So I was like, oh, wow, it's just going to happen, you know? And now I can tell it's getting real.
I knew that it would be a part of it.
I talked to an accountant, and that's when it got real for me.
Really?
You know, oh, God, yeah. When he said all that stuff that we have to figure out.
Yeah.
You know,
that's true. When it comes to the real details of owning and operating a business.
With another person you're not related to.
We are going to need help. I'm just stating that to the universe and to whoever's listening who...
Well, we've got it.
And,
I know the people. That's what's hilarious is I know all the right people.
Yeah. I can deal with anything as long as like the financial stuff. That's what I really like become blockheaded about. I will sit and stare at it, like read the words, just read the words. I know how the English language works, even when it's technical and not created for a human soul. But I just can't get it to go through. Like, so I've like suspended the thought on that. Anyway, we don't want to start an LLC until the next year for convenience. So we got some time to just be blockheaded. We got time to figure this
out, And that's not the worst part. It's the partnership.
Oh, yeah. That's
the LLC's no big deal. I've done that before.
Yeah.
That's no big deal.
All the contracts.
It's the if this, then that thing. Mm-hmm. That's the scary stuff. But the business part, I know about. You know,
thank God.
But I haven't gone through this with another person.
Right.
That, you know, and that it is different. You know, it is different. We want to be very cautious because we cherish what we have together and we don't want it to get destroyed.
Yep.
You know, and that's when I was young and I worked in law offices. That's the first thing that the women told me. They said that particularly if you're friends, you want paperwork.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you want to just make sure everybody understands the same thing.
And
because we think we do, but we don't. You know, everybody uses language differently, and everybody comes from a different background, and
you can see this even from people deciding to be roommates.
Yeah. That's true.
You know, you think everything's great in your relationship, and then you live together, and it's like, oh.
Or getting married after you've lived together.
Yep.
Because living together is different than getting married together. I've done both.
Yeah.
You
like,
know?
boundaries are a part of friendship. Like, you have to value your relationship enough to set those as well. And that's something I was so late to learn. Like,
not as late as I was. I'm older than you are.
Well,
way older.
I guess it's because that's how they get away with stealing everything from women.
So embarrassing.
Our boundarylessness.
Maybe,
and
maybe
keep
so.
us in that state. And I don't think that's even conscious, really. I think it literally is just humanity coming out of a cave. Like, that is our emergence into, not even out of anything, just into the light of consciousness. Is like, oh my gosh, I am a self. And it's sacred. And others' selves are sacred. And the diamond, like, that shines on every little facet of selfhood is so resplendent. It's not ego, it's not shallow, it's not vain. To be, what's the word I want to use here? Like, because I've been pretty self-obsessed my entire life. Like, I've always been pondering the self, looking at myself. Even I've realized looking into the mirror for me is such a comfort. Like, if I'm out in public and I feel super uncomfortable and like I just don't know what's up, I don't recognize what other people are doing, I see myself in a mirror or a window and I'm like, oh, okay, somebody safe is here.
Oh, that's really interesting. That's cool.
That's been kind of my own, beyond the need to feel beautiful that was more unconscious and ego driven early on. I realized it turned into that. It turned into like, I am safe to myself, you know, like, I don't know if I can trust others, but I know I can trust me.
And that's good that you can, you know. I couldn't.
Yeah. Because
my mind checked out so often, you know, so there was no trust that I can save myself even. You know, that's how I spent most of my life. Because these big things would just happen willy-nilly, you know. Because my bipolar one is heavily mixed up with severe PTSD, you know. So I've got the natural thing that we both have. I think we're both rapid psychors. That seems pretty obvious to me because since we've met each other, we're rolling about the same.
Okay.
You know, and I'm a rapid psychor, so that means you are too, honey.
I might just be a responder.
Well,
I am
that's true. You could be.
I think I'm a universal mirror. Like, that's how Teal Swan describes herself. And I was like, that sounds like me. Like, whatever the other person that I'm choosing to align with is doing, I'll be right on board. Or like in a group situation, if there's an absence of energy, like if something needs to be brought into balance, I'll be that energy. I'll be the lively one, or I'll be the quiet one, or I'll be whatever I need to be to balance the room.
I tend to do that too.
Yeah, maybe that's part of it. Yeah. Part of the like Gestalt consciousness, like perceiving the whole. Yeah. You just want to fill in the gaps.
I think that may be part of it. I don't know.
What does rapid cycling mean? Because I don't know the terms on the psychological front. Regular bipolar would be bipolar 1. You could have an episode once or twice in your lifetime. And that may be the version you have. Yeah. You know. And so with that version, you just want to take care of yourself. And this is how I raised my younger son, because we're blood kin. As I just said, you need to know you need to know your limitations and your boundaries, and don't go past there. Because once you've cracked, it's like a seizure. It's more likely to happen again. And if it happens again, it's, you know, you're on the path I've been on, which is multiple breakdowns.
you know. And actually he has not had a full-on breakdown, you know, and he's my blood kin, so he's got a 75% chance of being bipolar, you know. But when I started studying supplements and things to help my brain, I was sharing that information with him, and he just controls, you know, he sees it on the horizon, and he just controls things that way, you know. He gets the rest he needs, he goes take walks on the beach if he has to, you know. They meditate, they do yoga. I'm saying they because he's married. You know, they're very aware of what's going on, and they're both writers, so, you know, they use it in their creativity, which is really great. I think I didn't learn to use it in my creativity.
Really?
Yeah, because I saw.
When did you write that play?
Well, I mean.
And you write.
I mean, not consciously.
Okay.
Not consciously.
Gotcha.
They've made the conscious decision, and when I was listening to Bjork, she was making conscious decisions. I was not making conscious decisions.
Okay.
And you know, regret's kind of a worthless thing, but if I had a regret, that might be one of them. Is that I wasn't making conscious decisions. I was just always in survival mode. That's all. I mean, and I just kept getting thrown into it. So, you know, I had 2 life-threatening kidney infections, and the second one caused major brain damage. You know, so I was trying to stay off the streets of Seattle for, you know, years. And then my husband fell 3 stories. You know, so then again, boom.
Yeah.
Trauma again, you know.
That makes perfect sense.
And the one who was bipolar 1 was the one who was supposed to be responsible for a household. That's been terrifying. 20 years of being terrified, you know.
Yeah. You have to have a somewhat safe foundation to even begin to become conscious. That's.
Yeah.
I mean, you can. I mean, I'm sure there are people who. That's not how it goes. But for the average person, some fundamental feeling of safety has to be there, or you are just kind of gonna do whatever you have to do.
Yeah. Well, and I, you know, prayer's always been a big part of my life. The Bible's always been a big part of my life. Philosophy, I've read a lot of philosophy. So all that was going with me while I was trying to stay off the streets. You know, but it was pretty basic.
It was more like a lifeline than a conscious. Well,
and the way I was raised in the Lutheran tradition was that this would not take away any of the problems of being alive on this planet, but it would give you tools that would aid you in making better decisions and navigating in a better way.
Yeah.
And so that's the way I've always thought about my Christianity was that way, that it's a daily practice.
Yeah.
Just like I think about my yoga and my breathing and my toning and stuff. It's the same thing. I just think of these all as practices to help me.
Their tools and whatever.
Stay here now, you know, and not be veering off any more than I have to. But my brain just does that.
Yeah.
You know? It's you know, I just saw something flutter out there, and I'm like, oh,
what's the message?
You know, what's the message?
Yes.
Because I have that's the way my brain's been, is I saw messages and everything most of my life, and I'm just now starting not to assume those are real spiritual messages.
Well, the thing about
but that's what's tricky about shamanism.
Yeah.
You know, if we lived in that kind of society, I wouldn't have to make those rationalizations because the way I am would be accepted.
Yeah.
And if I had a vision or something, somebody go, "Oh, okay, well we'll be thinking about that," or whatever. In this society, you're just fucking nuts.
Well, that's why I picked up on tarot, because I was like,
yeah.
Duh, I'm already reading everything. I'm reading the entire environment constantly.
Yeah.
Why don't I just limit it to these cards? And then I don't have to worry about the flittering outside. Nothing's talking to me. And I have to shut that. I do have to be very conscious about that. Like, shutting out the noise, the significance in everything.
Yes. Well, and I've realized that's why I like training animals. Because for the moment that I'm locking eyes with that animal and expressing what my desires are and trying to figure out what theirs are and then how they can match up, in that moment, my world's under control.
You're focused, yeah.
And that's what I realized, see, because when I had a gigantic crack up in around 2003, 13 and 14 and 15, those were, I was leaving the room.
Yeah.
And
you had to find something.
I had to find
staple you down
something.
to
And that's what I realized is that's why my Chihuahua is so well trained. Because I had her during all of that, and I just worked with her day and night.
Yeah, that is kind of a form of,
it was therapy for me.
I would call this positive projection.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
like you want to control yourself, so you're kind of.
So she and I just worked together.
Yes.
You know? And,
I love the concept of projection.
And we just mutually train each other, you know. Because Chihuahuas are pretty bossy. They have to be because they're so tiny, you know. And she's been trained not to bark excessively or anything like that because those sounds make me want to kill somebody. I don't like high pitches that are like that. But what I do like is that because she was raised that way from the minute I got her, we've mutually trained each other.
Yeah.
And so, like, you've seen her. You know, if I'm messing around the house too much and she thinks it's time to sit down and get petted, she lets me know.
Yeah. Time to take a break.
Time to take a break. And then Masha, you know, just the 𝔼𝕚𝕚𝕚, the wolf girl, the hunter, she'll just come and look at me. You know, and I'm supposed to figure out what the hell she means, you know. And I'm always talking to both these animals and going, I wish I was as smart as you are, because they can understand what I'm saying to them. They have figured out those sounds enough that they know what some of those sounds are. I, on the other hand, don't understand their sounds, really. I can't claim that I really understand their sounds as well as they seem to understand mine.
You know what Masha's look
I guess so. Yeah, I guess so.
Like, and they're just communicating in other ways than just sounds. And you know, like, an angry sound, a territorial sound versus...
I guess that's true.
Because they don't know the words we're saying. They
I know they know the sounds. They figured out that sound is my name.
Yeah.
That sound means they're talking about me. Because when Thora was still alive, he was the only male in the house. We had a female cat, 2 female dogs, and then the boy. And we realized after a few months that he knew the word boy. He knew we were talking about him when we said the word boy. He had figured that out by himself, because we'd never used that as a training word or anything.
Yeah.
But we realized that whenever we said boy, the ears went up. His. None of the females. His went up.
Wow. Yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
He figured it out by himself.
I think fundamentally, just no sentient creature is very different.
I believe that.
They just don't have literally the physicality to produce words.
Yeah.
And I found myself thinking, like, okay, back to the topic of, like, human ego, vanity. Like, we have this hierarchical way of seeing things, which is necessary in some ways, like to create structure sometimes, or you know, some people are cut out to be leaders, others are not. You know, there's a necessity to it to a point.
Yeah.
If it's not saying one person is of more value than the other,
Right?
Like, we need
It's
to
just to
value
get a job done.
everyone in the structure equally. But this is what I'm seeing so much in people is wanting to, and again, it goes back to, like, not wanting to own the power of you as an individual, or even just of being human.
Okay.
We want to pawn it off and be like, no, the dogs are smarter than us because they blah blah. Like,
Oh, thanks for pointing the finger at me.
it's not just you.
You know I'm kidding
everybody.
you. You know I'm teasing you.
Even
no.
when it comes to love,
I'm willing to be the guinea pig here. Absolutely.
that's one reason
I do that all the time.
This is why we work.
Yeah.
Like, we both want to be called out, or you know,
And we both back
we
them
enjoy
constantly.
the sword sharpening.
Yeah.
Even.
Yeah.
And I mean, I constantly, I'll start out the day with one opinion, and then by the end of the day, I've already flipped. Like, flip-flopping, I don't see why that's a bad thing.
But the way
means you're willing to grow.
But our manic energy, both of us, if people hear us talking, they think that we're set on what we're talking about. And neither one of us is that way. We're also thinking about what everybody else is saying at the same time.
And our sense of time is
not there.
Eternal.
Yeah, it's pretty much eternal. So that's
so we
what's
have
kind
to
of
clarify for one another, even, like,
Yes.
okay, this means now. This means just whenever it's in the
Yeah,
queue.
we had to have both got manic when we met each other, of course, you know. And that's one of the first things that I had to say is, I never mean right now unless I say, this is the deadline that we're talking about.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's the eternal now, you know,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
because that's how you create.
Yep.
You know, that's how you create. I've got an itch for these animal cards. I'm just going to bring them over because I felt it earlier.
Come here.
So, hey, Mash.
I want her to just be seen.
I know. I'd love for her to
This is the most gorgeous dog.
Yeah, she's such a pretty girl.
Smile for the camera.
Yeah. When Masha smiles, it's a little scary because she's got big, flesh-tearing teeth. And when she's trying to be charming, they all show, which is just hilarious. Because we could tell, Dad and I could tell she's working real hard.
Yeah.
You know, she's just trying to look so
My face
sweet.
is not made for this.
Yeah, exactly. That face is meant for killing. You know? Here, let's both do this.
Some cards.
Okay, I'm just
Some
gonna.
soothing
Well, that one
cards.
flipped
'Cause
out, so there's mine.
We
Here,
probably do need to wrap this
shut
up
down.
soon.
Yeah, here's mine. Hawk Spirit.
Oh,
Let Spirit be your guide. I'm glad to do that because I don't want to have any answers to anything today.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And we've gotten into this discussion with tarot cards. Like, you don't like to see human figures.
No, I don't.
And
Yeah,
it's because
true.
of trauma.
Yeah, it
like
is trauma-oriented.
I
Absolutely.
understand with what I was saying about the dogs versus humans.
Uh-huh.
I do understand that a lot of that comes from humans being freaking awful.
Yeah.
But I keep finding myself wanting to mention it because it just needs to be in awareness.
And I just
somewhere.
want to say this.
Like,
Are humans really
we're not
awful?
that bad.
Or are they just part of nature?
Yes,
And part of
and
nature
animals
is
are
destruction.
awful.
I mean, yeah, you know, but I don't call animals awful. When the hawk drops down and gets a squirrel, I
We
feel
do-
for
but
the
we do that for
squirrel all
humans.
right. You know, I know, that's what I want to point out. But I don't go, oh, evil hawk,
Right. Mm-hmm.
you know. But if a human kills another human, yeah, I go evil human. But this mind of mine does take into account that maybe that's just nature.
And it's
You know,
ego
and I really
survival.
hate that idea because
Well-
stuff was done to me as a kid, you know, that we think are bad things. You know, they've been deemed to be bad, and I deem them as bad too because I grew up with all of this too, you know. But just on an intellectual level, I really wonder if there's really good and evil at all. You know, if it's just nature, that it's just life, and there's.
I mean, that's my fundamental perspective.
That's
Like,
how I
period.
feel. Fundamentally.
That's me, like,
But I also know that I'm human and that I'm also horrified at the same time. But this is how I've gone through my entire life.
yeah.
Always with at least two ideas.
And that's
You know?
perfectly because we are narrative beings. We tell a story.
Oh, I like
And I
that.
think-
Narrative beings.
We are.
like
So
that.
we are in the middle of a story.
Uh-huh.
And there are good characters and bad characters and good characters that become bad characters and bad characters that become good characters. And this is the fourth dimension. It is the most highly varied dimension. I mean, people think of this as the third dimension. It's really the fourth. If you know, all these abstract things, communication through language, dreams, all of these things are like the next level up. And then the fifth dimension would be the harmonization of all
Right.
the polarities, where all the stories work for every character, and nobody has to be a bad guy.
Right.
There may be little instances, like at the grocery store, where someone does something and they
Right.
kind of like, you suck
Well,
for
it's
that.
snarl. It's two dogs
And then
snarling.
the next day, the next
It's
day,
like no big deal.
yeah, because that kind of stuff keeps life interesting. But
I saw that quote again that I told you about, where it said, you know, some loves bring destruction, and you need to beg life. Yes, destroy me. It is in that app.
Oh my
I saw it
gosh.
this morning
Okay.
again. It's in that app.
I'm
I
done with
I
the
love that.
destructo relationships. That's what I said yesterday to you.
Wait, you got the frog.
Spirit. It's got the pearl again, right above this pearl.
What's
oh
it
my
say?
gosh, clear out the clutter.
Oh my God.
I got double pearls.
I love it.
And what I was just saying, like, in my relationships, big time, the clutter is gone. I'm not doing any toxicity. This is why my relationships have all ended relatively soon, because I can spot it from a mile away, like the seed. And I think I've left some people very perplexed, like,
Why you stepped back.
And it probably seemed very unfair at times, even friendships that I've had, because I just will pull away at the first instance of like, okay, I see the domino effect if this goes on.
And see, and I've seen it all my life, and I just go ahead and walk in, is the way I was. And so to me, I think your way might be better. I don't know.
I don't know either.
I have no idea.
Because I think it's all trial and error.
Because now I'm trying not to do that, as you know. Because I always see it too. I think I sense people. I think I can sense what people believe just with their body language. And that on some level I get flipped out when I see that body language, because it meant my house. It meant big trouble.
I think I've become very attuned to that with men.
I'm that way with women too, as you know. I remember.
Or with women, I'm just
trying
less.
to mop up my act with women even.
Yeah. I guess it's there. It's there. I don't know. I think I do the numb thing because I'm too aware of those things. So I'm like, even there was some like hermit who went out into the woods to live, and some quote of his, it was just like, I can't look at people's faces. There's too much information there, man. And I was like, oh my God, I feel that. Like, it's just overwhelmed.
That's why I can't do retail, because I get triggered constantly. Because people walk in, they hit the door, and I can feel it. I feel the energy, And
I guess, ironically,
I don't do well with that. The manic thing. One day of retail a couple of years ago, the first day flipped me into mania. Everybody in the house knew it when I went home, and we all talked about it. And I kept trying, but I had to stop. I got sick immediately.
Yep. Because you were it inspired you. You were good at it, kind of organically.
No.
Really?
No, I studied hard.
Oh.
No, I was not even remotely. I was too introverted. I was a total introvert. I was a classic composer.
That's true.
Classic composer kid. It was all in here.
I know.
And I might share with one person at a time, but that really was it. Unless I was directing a bunch of kids. I was a director from 5 on. I was the kid that would make up the game and direct all the other kids on how to play the game, and we'd play the game. I even had teenagers playing games I made up when I was 5. I had something, I don't know what that is, but I had that thing.
Yep.
Where you could create this thing and other people would just walk in there with you. Yeah, I guess so, the magician, yeah. Because the game I made up that I've always remembered was called Who's Behind the Magic Curtain. How's that for a magician game?
Oh my gosh.
How funny is that?
Oh man.
Yeah.
I don't quite have that. I don't know what I've got, but definitely introversion and the use of mania as a coping mechanism to be social, to be around other people.
Me too.
Anytime, so I would have the periods where I would retreat, go back home.
Yeah.
I've moved back in with my mother on several occasions as an adult, because I'd go out into the world with all these dreams and truly happy, feeling secure and excited to meet the world, and encountered nothing good really. So I'm like, okay, I'll just go home. No shame, no regret even, just okay, that's not what's up, so
yes, I didn't have that option, because my mother walked me to the door when I was 12 or so, and showed me the boys across the street, and one of them was in his 20s and had come back home, and she turns to me and she goes, "Don't think you're ever coming back."
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wait, explain that interaction to me. See, sometimes this is when I feel autistic a little bit.
Okay,
I'm I don't understand some social interactions.
It was a little harsh. Yeah, she took me to the front door. She opens the front door. She points across the street at the boy who'd come back home at 24, right? And she turns to me and she says, "Don't think you are ever coming back."
If you run off with him?
No.
Is that...
Once you've left home. That wasn't going to be an option for me, ever.
Gotcha.
Ever.
See?
Once she was telling me, and I got told that more than once, once you've walked out the door, that's it. You're gone.
Okay.
I'm done with you. That was my mother's message.
You know what?
And my father's message was just trying to control me no matter where I went with the money. you know, they'd throw money at to try to control what I was doing or saying or thinking or whatever, you know.
It's a fine line between like the guiding force of a parent.
It is. It's tricky.
That someone needs to feel loved and secure.
Yeah.
And control. Like, and I think maybe individuals have had it right. Like, it sounds like you've really done a great job raising your children.
I hope so. I think the boys think so. You know, I know the younger one does for sure.
But societies, I don't think any culture has gotten raising children like right, except for maybe the 𝔼𝕚𝕚 that you mentioned.
Yeah.
Who live like
there are tribes everywhere.
Yeah.
Where there are some in the Andes that they have no interaction with whites at all. And we know, we have scientists that know they're there, and they definitely know we're out here and they don't have anything to do with this.
Yeah.
There's some wisdom for you.
Yeah. I mean,
You know?
I think it's fun to say that. Again, it's like I resist the urge to pedestalize anybody. Dogs,
No, I'm not pedestalizing them, but I think there's wisdom. Well, of course, I was raised with that phrase too. I was raised with the phrase, we don't hate anybody who's different than we are, but we keep to our own kind. So I was raised with that phrase to start with by way older people. And I tend to still believe that. You know, that there's wisdom
in keeping
to your own kind. There is for us. Look at us.
Yeah.
I've been so much happier since I met you.
Yep.
You know, and it isn't like la happy. It's a little bit of security because there's somebody I can talk to who's going to understand what I'm saying. You know, and I have learned that I can talk to regular, I'll call you regular people, pardon me for this, regular people. I can talk
it's
endlessly.
It's our me day. We can say that.
They can't. It's me day, and they can't understand a damn word I'm saying. You know, if they cannot understand where I'm living any more than I can really understand where they're living.
Yeah, that's something to. When you have a different way of being than other people, and you get together and talk, like there has to be a little bit of venting.
That's my phone.
Yeah, it's going off a lot.
Yeah. Turn it off.
Like we had this concept for this podcast. We wanted to call it the safe box, like the soap box.
Yeah,
but it's safe.
Yeah.
Nobody's allowed to be offended by anything we're saying, even if you feel a little ping.
So it'd be like Alcoholics Anonymous, no crosstalk. Yeah. No crosstalk. There's an old term for that.
I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah, it used to be no crosstalk.
Okay.
You could get up and say whatever you wanted to, and your feelings were in Alcoholics Anonymous and all the other Al-Anon and all that. They all used to have that real. I haven't been to one in a long time. But when I was young, I went to some of that stuff, and that's what they'd say is no crosstalk. That your feelings are your feelings, so you learn that your feelings are your feelings.
Yeah.
You know?
And they are separate from your actual beliefs or way of facing the world or other people.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're just clumsy with language, but we got to get a feeling out some way, so we use the tool of language when we're not great at it, you know? But I love the struggle. It's like I just have always had this maternal energy that loves to see the shitty drawing. I'll still put that shitty drawing on the refrigerator and be so proud of it. Like I just feel this fundamental sense of pride, really, when I see all of human history and what we've come out of consciousness-wise, and I'm proud of us. I think humans are doing great. That's something I've learned it's a feeling I just keep on the back burner because I do think it's time to do better.
Well, see, I feel a little differently. I feel like it's very possible that humans knew way more in the past, and then it got lost, and now it's coming back up again. So, but I don't know. This is nothing that I'd feel like defending till the death by any means.
I'm also just going.
It's just a feeling that I've got, you know.
But if that was the case, all the stuff
I read in my experience in life.
If that was the case, then something. Because I guess I just fundamentally believe that everything is purposeful. If that's the case, then why did that happen? Why was Atlantis destroyed?
I believe we had.
There's
been
just
multiple things with the
random
Earth.
hostile forces.
Or maybe it's just the Earth. The Earth keeps turning. The Earth keeps changing, and Atlantis. I've watched a lot of things on where it could be and all that, and there are entire cities that were really beautifully built under the sea.
I think
You
I
know?
had hallucinations of that because I was.
And so I really deeply feel that it's very possible that humans have been
Downgraded, degraded,
elevated in the past.
Yeah,
and then,
absolutely.
And then
I mean,
it's gone down, because that could happen now. This is how I look at it, and I think I've mentioned this to you. With all this business where we're putting everything on the cloud, okay, I'm not against that. I use those tools too. I also keep hard copies because that's going to go down. It's just going to go down. That's life. And when it goes down, if there are no books and nobody's writing, we're going into a version of
we
Dark
at least
Ages
need
again.
to prepare for. It's like.
Yeah, and
Like-
that's where I can see, again, because I'm endlessly curious
that's
about
what-
everything on the planet, that I know now I've just been lost in the past. And we're just now finding some of that stuff out.
Yeah.
They're just now figuring it out. When I was little, all this stuff in Egypt, they couldn't decipher any of it yet. And now they're able to decipher a lot of that stuff. And they're starting to think that they did it with sound. That they moved rocks and stuff with sounds. And okay, all right, I'll just say, I know that people would think that's crazy. Some people would. But I don't think it is. Because I've also watched other things where like somebody was curing cancer with sound. And I'm a musician, so of course I deeply believe sound.
Mm-hmm.
I feel it myself. It's the one thing that absolutely does transport me.
Well, it's very clear
The sound.
that we're going through an age of information being deliberately obscured. Like, that was the whole thing. Like, even Jesus Christ, if he was even a real person, I'm just going to throw it out there because it could be a symbol.
Yeah.
Completely.
Yeah.
That maybe he was a person and he was so powerful that the church, which wrote the Bible so long after Christ lived, like they had to do something with his influence because they couldn't control people because of it. I also believe that time, it's not linear. I could be thinking like we're headed towards some future that I have visions of. It could be the past. As the show, oh God, what's it called? The one with the cute little blonde girl. It's like the afterlife.
Oh yeah, I know the one you're talking about.
Time is like wibbly wobbly stuff.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, The Good Place. That's
the good
name of it.
place. Yes,
Yeah.
I think we mentioned it the other day. It's more like wibbly wobbly timey wimey stuff.
Okay, is that how we're ending this week? Timely-wimely stuff.
The rational mind is a gift, but it's exclusive to where we are vibrationally.
Yeah.
Enjoy it, for it is precious, but it could be lost at any moment.
Well, we know that, because
So
we
I
lose it
think
at any moment.
That might be one reason that even if things were perfect paradise at some point, things still have to move on, or we have to get better at record keeping, and
That's what I wonder.
and being
know?
aware constantly and not getting too comfortable because you just have to learn to live life in motion.
Yeah. Because look at the Egyptians. They've got writing all over those tombs, But we couldn't decipher it, And the way we are right now, with everything being on the internet, that's just going to be gone. They won't even be able to decipher it because it won't exist,
Yeah.
because it's all air. It's all smoke and, it's all smoke and mirrors. And I live in smoke and mirrors. That's the way my mind works. So I don't have anything against smoke and mirrors, obviously. But as far as the history of the human race goes, that's a little,
Yeah.
I can see how things could go cattywampus. It's like, what's his face? Musk. When I watch his stuff on YouTube, and when he shows the things about how they can put something in the brain and, fix the body through the brain and all that, that's all well and good, but I also see how it could be used a different way.
Absolutely.
That's
why I'm
terrifying
very
to
reticent
me.
about him.
Yeah, me too. I believe he means well, but he's just a human like the rest of
Yeah,
us.
and there's a naivete that goes
Yes,
with
there
meaning
is.
well.
Yes, there is a
But
naivete,
he's
and I've
not
lived it.
unaware of the negative consequences. He's more like, well, if somebody's going to do it, I trust it under my stewardship, like the AI thing.
Yeah.
He's making those creepy robots.
Yes.
And I'm like, okay, you're warning us about AI and creating it at the same time. So it's a little bit just like, again, I just trust the divine imagination. I know that in the balance of good and evil, good always prevails, period. I can't believe in anything but that. But
Well, I think we kind of have to. You know, I watched The Best Exotic Marigold Hotel. Did you see that movie?
no.
I love that movie. It's so sweet. There's this kid in there that's trying to refurbish a really trashed out hotel in India. And his favorite saying is, everything will be all right in the end. And if it's not all right, it must not be the end.
Mm.
And when I saw that movie, I thought when my husband fell, that would have helped me so much.
Mm-hmm.
Because I finally lost.
Lost hope.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
It was like 4 years of devastation.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually, even if you're a Pollyanna, which I totally was, in the way I handled things, I've always got my eye on the horizon. Something
Mm-hmm.
happens, I'm looking on the horizon. That's just how I'm cut out. But even being that way, after like the first 4 years, I was just trashed.
Yeah.
You know.
Mm-hmm. Everyone contends with hopelessness.
Yeah, and so
and
when I
that's
saw
what
that movie,
connection-
I said to a friend of mine, I said, that saying would have helped me a lot. If I could have just seen that
What
every
is it
day.
again?
Everything will be all right in the end. So if it's not all right, it must not be the end. And you know, I'm okay with that because
Yeah.
in all of life, whether it's philosophy, science, religion, art, anything, you have to make one assumption to move forward. Nobody has ever thought of anything that didn't require an assumption right before that
Yeah.
thought.
Nothing's from scratch.
Yeah, nothing's from scratch. There's always has to be an assumption. That's what it is to be human.
Mm-hmm.
We're not the mind of God creating all of this.
Right.
And so we always have to assume something about the mind of God.
Yeah.
You know?
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah.
You know? And
The mind of God is like me.
yeah, it's the big me. I think we're done with that. Me and the mind of
Yes.
God.
Peace out. Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah.